Hey, what's up, Facebook and YouTube, guys? We're here in the morning, as always, with Caitlin Roth. We're going to talk weather.
Good morning.
Because what is the big thing right now? Hurricane Irma.
Absolutely.
We're talking about it all morning.
We've been talking about it all week. And bracing for impact, that would be South Florida. We are now about, I would say, less than 48 hours away from landfall, but less than 24 hours away from any impacts felt with this storm. And it's becoming quite clear that all of South Florida needs to brace for a direct hit from a major hurricane.
And, oh, perfect. Okay, great. So really quickly, let me show you guys this bum shot out of Key West.
Okay.
People are leaving.
Well, good. Yeah. I mean, Key West has been under a mandatory evacuation for days now, right?
Yeah. I remember the governor was saying, everybody get out. It is time for everyone to get out, everywhere you are.
Yep. Everyone's pretty much got until this evening to get to where they need to be. And it's to be taken very seriously because all of South Florida is under a hurricane warning. There's mandatory evacuations, and that's what you want to see. You only want people incoming to be like news media outlets or emergency managers or something like that, because you want everyone to get out. It's to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
There are a lot of lifers in Florida who have lived through hurricanes before, but then, they haven't had a direct hit from a strong storm since 2004. So it's been a while.
And if any of you guys are Floridians, maybe you're watching from there, definitely comment below. Let us know what you're going through and what you think about all this. But let's go to our maps, I think. Let's check it out.
So let's start with... we'll start with, actually, can we start with the other one, if you don't mind? Because
here we go.
I would be remiss not to mention that we've got two other hurricanes out there right now.
Right.
So obviously, Irma is the focal point. Irma is currently a Category 4 with winds sustained at 150 miles an hour, but still some gusts higher up into Category 5 strength. Its central pressure, 927 millibars. It's moving west-northwest. Irma has had quite a journey across the Atlantic. It has broken records. It's one for the history books. It's the most powerful storm ever recorded. And to maintain that strength for so long. So, that being said, Irma weakened slightly overnight. It moved across Turks and Caicos, which we're now starting to see pictures of damage that came out from Turks and Caicos. It's awful. But just going over those islands weakened it slightly. That being said, a Cat 4, Cat 5, it's still catastrophic damage possible. So that it's still a major hurricane. Jose, right on its heels. The big thing was that Jose has been strengthening rapidly and is now as strong as Irma when it comes to wind speeds. It's a Cat 4 with wind sustained 150 miles an hour. And this is really concerning because Jose seems to be following in Irma's footsteps through this part of the Atlantic, meaning some of the islands, Barbudo and Anguilla, that were just decimated by Irma are now under hurricane watches for Jose, which looks to be almost just as strong. It's really sad. We're really worried about, the northern Leeward Islands, and the consensus still, though, says that Jose will go out to sea and will not be impacting the U.S. But, you still feel for anyone who's in Jose's path. And then finally, we have Katia, Category 2, a hurricane that's in the Gulf, and that will be impacting eastern Mexico over the weekend. But yes, it's all about Irma.
But speaking about Mother Nature and Mexico, the earthquake last night, too.
That's bizarre.
Did you see that? Did you guys look in? I mean, I don't know you.
No, we did. We've been reporting it all morning on the west coast of Mexico, and I think down by Oaxaca there was some damage reported. I mean, fatalities, and it was over an 8, I think, on the Richter scale.
Yeah,
so
can't catch a break there, guys.
It was a major hurricane that was a major earthquake on the west side. They're now dealing with a hurricane on the east side.
And you can see it right there, guys, in the map.
Feels like Armageddon out there. Yeah, everything's
That's what
just
everyone's
colluding.
saying. So, okay, so what can we're talking about Florida mainly because that's what we're looking at there
Yeah.
to expect something Sunday morning.
Yeah, let's go to our other map. I'll show you the track. And so the big difference between yesterday and today, two things. One, we're closer to the event and more of the models have come into agreement. Secondly, they've come into agreement about a westward shift in the track. Do you remember yesterday we were talking about impacts for Georgia and the Carolinas with the potential landfall? That doesn't look likely now. So that's good news.
Okay, so people in Carolinas.
Now, they'll still feel the effects. They'll still have high storm surge, and they'll still deal with heavy rain and tropical storm force, at least tropical storm force winds, maybe lesser hurricane force winds than a major hurricane. But anyways, the point is that it looks like Irma will kind of graze the north coast of Cuba and make that northward turn and head straight for South Florida and then move up the state. So that greatly spares people like Jacksonville, people like Savannah, people like Hilton Head, people like Myrtle Beach. But now you're talking about more of a direct impact for South Florida.
Yeah, guys, if any of you are on the chat, I see some of you are, definitely comment below, let us know where you are. Maybe some of you guys may be impacted by this. Yeah. Let us know. I'm also really curious, so Miami really is at the brunt of it.
Yeah, you know, Miami, here's the thing, if that eye wall of the hurricane, that's the center of circulation goes, as the National Hurricane Center track is showing, just to the southwest of Miami. Miami is in traditionally the worst spot for hurricane landfall. If this were to pan out the way that it is, that's because when you're in that position, you've got the hurricane force winds, the storm surge, and the rain, but you've also got the forward momentum of the storm moving, so it's like an extra punch in the face as that hurricane lands. So that's where you get this unbelievable storm surge, wave heights 15 to 20 feet, and massive erosion of, you know, like you look at the map and there are these tiny little islands, the Miami Beach, they're just, you know, you have to cross a bridge to get to the beach, and they look so exposed.
Definitely.
So we're worried about, we're worried about all of South Florida. But if this path that the National Hurricane Center just issued at 11 a.m. were to be correct, with the landfall early Sunday morning of a Cat 4 on the southwest side of Florida, Miami's in big trouble.
So we have some viewers here from Jacksonville, Fort Myers. They're asking about that, but we were saying if they kind of move inward, they're probably going to be okay. Jacksonville's going to be okay.
Well, they'll have lesser effects. You're right. I mean, I think all of Florida needs to prepare. I think the further south you are, the greater risk you are for life and property. I think that Fort Myers, even though you're on the west side, you are directly in the path of a major hurricane, so you also have to be prepared. And we'll see, Fort Myers is under a hurricane warning, meaning it's best to evacuate. I'm not sure if they're under a mandatory evacuation, but they should leave. Jacksonville is much further north, and you see that the storm weakens considerably from a Category 4 to a Category 1 by the time it reaches Jacksonville. And it's kind of coming at them from the west side versus from a landfall. So I think the impacts will be a lot lesser towards Jacksonville. Yeah,
with that being said, I'm guessing some people are asking about Charleston, South Carolina, also going to be lesser effects.
Yeah, definitely. Charleston, I mean, you're still talking about wave heights 5 to 8 feet. You're still talking about some storm surge and beach erosion. You're still talking about tropical storm force winds and heavy rain, but it's not like what Miami's going to see in comparison. So they're not going to be under hurricane warnings or have any evacuations, I think.
Yeah, and so we were seeing, we're going to play this out for you later, but this morning, Florida Governor Rick Scott obviously saying, guys, evacuate no matter where you are, what coast you're at, that's what we want. Yeah. Everybody out.
So he did say that.
Yeah, so I'm going to recount that video and play it back. It was just moments ago, but we're getting in these updates kind of all day. So as officials come out in the counties surrounding these areas with what to do, obviously a lot of politicians down there. Marco Rubio made a statement this morning. We're going to make sure we bring that to you guys live. But like we were showing you before, a live shot of sort of the Key West look right there. There's the traffic. Not too crazy right now, but it's going.
The key is, this has the track that could possibly be if not a landfall right on the Keys, certainly the effects of a major hurricane moving right over them. So they need to be out. The Keys, Miami, Southeast Florida, Southwest Florida, they should take those warnings seriously.
And to recap, because we were talking about this the other day, but now I think it's sort of a lesser effect. DC, are we going to feel a little bit of rain maybe from it?
So interesting, yes, but of very minimal effects for us. With this more westward track, once that gets on land, first of all, it's going to weaken by the time it gets up to Georgia, let's say. With a more westward track, steers it away from us. So while the remnants of Irma may still throw up some clouds and showers for us here, that's it. That's it. It's going to be so minimal. Yeah. That's next Tuesday, Wednesday. I think we have a few cloudy days. I think we have some rain showers. But DC is safe from any high impacts from this storm.
That's really good. Guys, I see some of you, from the DMV. So there you go. There's your answer about that.
Yes, yeah.
You know what's really crazy too is we were talking. I think you were talking about this on air this morning. The hurricane hunters that go through. I mean, I'm just curious about it. It's so
God bless them.
interesting. They do it as their job / for fun. I mean,
well, I mean, it is their job.
Yeah.
But they're
flying into the.
They're flying into the storm. Now, they say at a certain elevation. I don't know the exact numbers, but obviously they can't drop below a certain number or else they become, their aircraft becomes compromised by the nature of the hurricane. But they have the anemometers, which measure the wind speed that they drop, and they have all their tools that they can just drop into the hurricane and then collect measurements because they have the data back on the plane, they have the data on their instruments, and that is the best. I mean, how else do you figure out what something's doing over open water? You have to fly into it.
It's amazing. So, there was a cam or maybe a GoPro or something on one of the guys, and I took it, tried to show it to you guys a couple days ago, and it was crazy.
I mean, the training is probably extensive to go through something like that, and most of them are military members, I think.
Right, that would make sense.
They have the experience to be able to fly through a hurricane, but you aren't you're not at sea level, you're up above.
Okay, looking down, getting stats, record, and stuff from that.
And that's how we know. So that's how we're able to, every 3 hours, give an update on the strength of the storm, because we wouldn't know unless we had the hurricane hunters dropping their equipment into the storm to measure wind speeds. So they're crucial. I mean, you wouldn't be able to figure out how high the wind speeds were or what the central pressure was within a storm without them. So they've been doing that constantly for days.
That's so cool. And this is a cool video. Mike Thomas tweeted this out from NOAA satellites. Let's just check it out. It's just a neat thing to show from NASA, right?
Yeah.
The lightning.
I haven't even seen this yet.
Yeah, within the hurricane. He was tweeting this out. He's kind of been tweeting. You guys have all been tweeting all morning, but kind of very eerie to see, and just a neat little satellite picture from NOAA.
Yeah,
NASA.
I mean, these are massive storms over open water, but they're also storms that have bands of thunderstorms. Hurricanes are notorious for bringing severe weather and tornadoes within a lot of their outer rain bands. So it is fascinating to see, but it's really just, a big mashup of thunderstorms and wind and rain and lightning as well. And
what did we see? Just to recap, overnight, Turks and Caicos pretty much got a ton of damage.
Yeah, so to recap,
I didn't get some. I want to get some pictures, but
some of the islands that belong to Turks and Caicos sustained a Category 5 level hit from Irma last night, and while that did weaken Irma's structure a little bit, moving over that landmass, those poor people on those islands sustained, as big of a hit as places like St. Martin did, and Anguilla and Barbudo. So. Through the course of today, Irma's going to be traveling kind of in between Cuba and the Bahamas. Not expected to have a direct impact on any of those places, but Irma's going to do what Irma wants to do. If Irma ends up going a little bit further to the southwest overnight and grazes the coast of Cuba, we'll see how that interacts with the landmass. If it doesn't and it stays over open water, there is fear of re-strengthening back to a Category 5. And
just going back to the people of Florida, it's so interesting. There's people that have unforeseen circumstances that have to stay, whether it be family or something. So there are people just sort of bracing. Have you heard some stories, anything about just what's going on down there?
There's a lot of people, for example, my grandparents live in Orlando, and they've lived there for years, and they've lived through hurricanes, and they're in Orlando, which is central Florida, and so they're never concerned. But, I was still the power could be out for days. You still you have start at the bare minimum and then prepare for even more. You could at the very least be without electricity, so you have to. But they said even in Orlando 2 days ago, Walmarts were packed and you couldn't get gas and you couldn't do, so they'll be there, and they are not along the coast. Certainly, that's the most important areas to evacuate. But
yeah, definitely. So official word. So now it's Category 4. As it moves in, it may change again.
We're still on track. I think any changes would be slight, but however, even slight changes in the track means it's going to impact a whole group of people, maybe more, maybe less. So, but the bottom line is the storm is huge, and the Florida Peninsula, by comparison, is super small.
So diameter-wise, it's still a lot larger than Florida Peninsula.
Yeah, it's a huge storm. I mean, I don't know. I think it's maybe 300 miles wide in diameter. Yeah. And southern Florida is only 100 miles wide in diameter.
Wow. And you guys can see right there on the map.
You're talking about the width of Irma
overtaking it.
This is an approximation, but 3 times the width of the Florida peninsula. So
Hey,
no
Mike.
one in South Florida is going to escape impact.
Mike saying hey.
Mike's
Hey, I
joining
just
in.
want to let you know, a new model coming in has landfall in Florida almost exactly where that 4 is.
The 4 next to Miami?
No,
Or wait.
to the west of Miami, like
Yeah.
right around Everglades
I
National
see
Park.
it.
Oh, by the way, it hammers the Keys.
Yeah.
So Florida Keys in trouble.
And that's what we were looking at with the cars here. These are people moving out of the Keys.
Yeah, and
At least it's moving.
I know.
I know.
good.
They are. And we've been talking about, we mentioned the westward shift, but I was saying Irma is so large in size and Florida is so small in comparison in size that no matter where the exact direct impact is, all of South Florida, from the Keys over through Miami Beach, everyone we want to be aware for the potential catastrophic effects.
Yeah. So what happens, Mike? Then you're leaving to the Everglades. So Everglades National Park. Like I'm concerned about that. Like how is that gonna? I mean,
Do you want to speak about the
Everglades
Everglades?
gonna be crazy?
No one lives there, thank God.
Actually,
Alligators?
that would be kind of good, I
True.
guess, because no
Yeah.
one lives there. But
That's
it's
true.
a wildlife preserve.
wildlife.
I mean, that's
Sad.
bad.
I wonder what will happen with that. That's a big deal.
But
They can't evacuate that. I
Right.
guess.
Yeah.
But the Keys would take a huge hit.
Yeah.
Then Everglades, and it would go up north. It does still bring it into the interior of Florida. So everybody, southern Florida is still in trouble.
Yeah.
We'll put it that way.
So it's likely the Keys will be really, really damaged badly.
Yeah, absolutely. At minimum storm surge, at maximum, it could go right over them. The good news about a track like that is it would spare Miami the worst of the winds, but I say that lightly because I don't want people to misread that as it'll spare Miami, because it won't.
Right.
But they'll avoid like those peak winds.
Yeah.
But still a bad storm all around. I would not want to be anywhere. What's that lake in the middle of Florida? Okeechobee.
Oh,
I wouldn't want to be
Yes.
anywhere south. Draw a line across there. I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to be anywhere south of that.
Or along it.
Or
That's crazy. Okay, and what's the story about flights? I mean, flights are shutting down at a certain time today, I think. Is that what we've heard?
I think they are. I think the
Something.
airports. I mean,
All
I
of
think
them.
it's like 8:00 tonight is kind of curfew for Florida, and that's where all the businesses. I mean, they just said all the Publix, all the grocery stores are closing. We heard on national news.
Really?
But, I think it's like 8:00 is you want to be where you're going to be, and hopefully you're not in South Florida.
Yeah.
So.
But if you're watching from DC, the weekend's going to be beautiful here.
Yeah,
I know.
It's-
Caitlin will say I feel bad saying this all
you
morning.
feel guilty about it.
But it's gonna be gorgeous.
But
Yes,
do you
and
know that.
With the westward track also, that really spares us any impacts. I mean, what we feel is going to be minimal regardless, but even, if it continues to curve through northern Georgia into the Tennessee Valley, we're just talking about showers for a couple days here, Tuesday, Wednesday.
And Thomas, thanks for watching from Louisiana. And Laura, I know you're asking about for Georgia and the surrounding areas of southern Georgia. A lot of people are really inquiring about that. Please talk about it.
About
That's what they
southern
say.
Georgia?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, right, honestly, it's all about South Florida. And yesterday, with a more eastward track potential, we were worried about the coast of Georgia. I mean, they could have sustained a landfall along with Carolinas, but now that it's more just, they're going to have much lesser impacts by the time that the storm reaches them.
They'll still get wind. They'll likely get some wind up above hurricane force at the very minimum at gust level. So winds gusting of hurricane force. Southern Georgia. Someone you said was watching from Louisiana. I'm not so set on you guys having wind, unless it trends way, way west there, which would be a shock to us at this point if it somehow gets into the Gulf and goes that way. Don't see that at all. Of course, if that changes, we'll let you know. But at this point in the forecast period, we're so close in that we don't expect too big of changes in that track to happen.
Yeah, if you're right along the coast, like if you are on Savannah's beach, I mean, you're going to see some major storm surge and winds, and we wouldn't suggest that, but...
Because of the bend in the U.S. there, like how the U.S. kind of kinks inland, you're going to force a lot of water up as the storm comes up into that little kink.
Interesting.
And that's why they have, I see you have it, Mike, the tweet from earlier.
Let's take this right here, storm surge.
Yes, they're calling for there's that area of red there along the Georgia coastline. That's a 5 to 10 feet storm surge.
Yeah, there we go. There's
wow, that's fascinating. That's a cool map. So,
that shows you that you don't, you're still getting hurricane force storm surge regardless of your position. Or regardless of the strength of the storm by the time it reaches you. So
flooding rains. Don't forget about that.
Yeah.
Latest European brought like almost 10 to 12 inches of rain just north of Jacksonville. up through southeastern Georgia especially. So heavy rain for you, I think, is kind of concern number one, storm surge number two, and then winds will be weakening as they get north, but you can still definitely have a couple of damaging gusts mixed in there. I don't want to rule out the severe weather threat with this either.
Well, that's true.
Because as the feeder bands start coming in, or the, not feeder bands, the banding on the
just the outer bands.
The outer bands. That's the name I'm looking for. Outer bands oftentimes contain tornadoes, so you'll have to watch out for those even ahead of the storm. I'd expect Storm Prediction Center will start issuing tornado watches and stuff like that because storms, especially strong ones, do have powerful bands that contain tornadoes.
Okay. And we got Travis watching from Asheville, North Carolina. Thanks for watching. Also, someone was wondering about their son at boot camp at Paris Island.
Where's that?
In South Carolina. But I think we already talked about it, but just to recap, South Carolina, possibly some effects, but
same thing as Georgia. I mean, look at that storm surge map. You know, this further south you go along the coast in South Carolina, the highest impacts with storm surge, flooding, rain, and wind. So
South Florida's a totally different animal there in the wind department.
Yeah.
But definitely some storm surge and heavy rain is what I'm sure
Is this relevant, this rain one?
If your son's at a camp, you
can show that.
This rain, Florida?
That's the latest
kind of
rain forecast.
Yeah.
7 to 12 inches, heavy.
Right over
and
Florida.
then you can see how the yellow kind of extends. I know it's kind of cut off there, but it does extend up into Georgia there.
Yeah. So Jacksonville affected by rain mostly.
Jacksonville's in the same camp as Georgia, southeast Georgia. I mean,
they're east of, like on the eastern bend of Florida. You're going to get some wind enhancement coming off the ocean there because oceans are flat, not a lot of frictional forces going there.
Okay.
Northwestern, it all depends on the track and where the center goes, but your city's kind of in the panhandle of Florida where the wind's mostly coming across the land, where that will help them out a little bit. Still gusty, but that will help them out. And on that note,
someone else is getting out.
Yeah, he is out. He was here early.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, be safe, guys, if you're down there.
Yeah.
I'll be tweeting throughout the day, but happy weekend.
We'll watch your tweets.
Happy weekend.
Thanks,
Bye,
Mike. Happy weekend.
Get out while you can.
I know, right?
Run, don't walk.
So gorgeous weather in
for the
DC,
weekend,
which is like such a crazy thing. So we're looking at all this, but that's a good map that we have here.
And important to note, all weekend long on Fox 5, on or fox5.com, on our Fox 5 Facebook page, there will be constant updates because with this hurricane expected to make a landfall somewhere along the South Florida coastline Sunday morning, we'll be following it all weekend long. Yeah,
that's awesome. Thanks, Caitlin. All right. Well, guys, if you have any other questions, let us know. We're going to be kind of jumping around to our different sources, a lot of weather stuff coming in, officials talking about what to do, and like I said, counties prepping, embracing for this storm. And we have a couple other storms that you're watching, but not as
They don't look to be, while Jose is a massive hurricane now and Katia's in the Gulf, they do not look to be impacting the U.S. at all. And we will be. So
we'll watch that.
It's all about Irma this weekend.
Awesome. Are you covering that a little bit this weekend? Are you off or what's your?
No, actually, I'm in California.
Right. Yeah.
So I had plans already to be out there this weekend. So I will be far away from Irma, and I hope everyone else is too.
All right. Well, guys, that's it. Thank you, Caitlin.
But we'll continue. You know, we follow even if we're not here in body, we are always following a big weather story online and on our social media sites. So.
Definitely continued coverage on our digital guys. So tune in with us here on YouTube and Facebook and our webpage, fox5dc.com. And we're going to be back with some more coverage in just a little bit. Thanks.
everything that we're doing right now, we can't do that in a couple hours. So we have to make decisions with the information that we have to provide the most effective public safety that we can. And you know what? If they're not perfect decisions, I can tell you they're made from the heart. They're made sincerely with everybody's interest in mind. And if there are people out there that find room to disagree with that, that's okay. And I'm okay with that, because I know that we're doing it from the right perspective and with the right interests in mind. And it's not an art. Sorry, it's not a science. It's not an art. It's a science. It's not a science. It's an art, and it was done for the right reasons. And we hope. I'd love to see nothing more than the thing just evaporate and go away, and that's not going to happen. That's not reality. We are going to have some impact, and let's just hope it's the most minimal impact on everybody in the state of Florida, and that all the residents and citizens and everybody here in the state stays as safe as they possibly can. And that's solely what our focus should be on, and nothing more than that at this point.
Can Chief Slaughter come up and tell us what he knows about the car theft, or you know anything about it?
Chief.
I don't know of any hurricane-related incident.
Chief, why don't you come up so that they can...
Good afternoon. I'm here to really kind of reiterate our support of the evacuation plan and how the sheriff has been dynamiting, collaborating, and conversating with us throughout the week to make sure that we're all on the same page and consistently doing an implementation plan. I am not aware of the specific incident. I'm not aware of any incident that's hurricane-related. I mean, we, unfortunately, as many people know, have vehicle thefts all the time. It's been something in Clearwater or in the Pinellas County that we've been dealing with. So I'm not aware of anything that's hurricane-related at this time.
How's the city, you guys ready?
We actually have our checkpoint. It's been going smooth. I corresponded with the sheriff earlier this morning, shared him some feedback. Didn't even have delays when I left to come here. It was running very smooth. The Barrier Island reentry passes, those who took the time to get those passes in advance and not stand in line yesterday, have definitely benefited from doing that.
Anything else? All right, well, thank you very much for coming, everyone. And are we going to follow up after the 5 o'clock, Sally?
We'll work on that.
Okay.
Thank you. So we will follow up later in the day. To the earlier discussion, however, I'd just like to make the point that, as the sheriff indicated, the decisions that we have made, the decisions that we will make, are based upon the best data and information available at that time. And we will always err on the side of ensuring public health, safety, and welfare. So thank you very much.
If there are no further questions at this time, we will conclude our press briefing this morning. We will have staff available after this briefing to provide interviews. Thank you very much.
He's going home. Okay, that was an update, guys. We're gonna have Caitlin come back quickly and just recap, because I know some of you are still on, and I want to. I know, Mike's out of here. Get out of here.
Hold on.
Still looking at this traffic cam. Anyway, we're just gonna recap for some of you who may have not heard. Maybe you're just joining us here on the stream. Let's get the map back and just talk about what we're looking at.
All right. Yeah, let's recap. So, as of this morning, Category 4 Hurricane Irma. Wind sustained at 150 miles an hour. It has weakened slightly since yesterday, but I want to stress, Cat 4, Cat 5, you're talking about the difference of wind speeds that are like 10 miles an hour. It's the same storm. It's huge. It is headed straight for South Florida, and it's potentially going to have some very catastrophic effects on parts of the peninsula. So right now it is, and that's a great little model forecast too that you're looking at right now. Right now it's forecast to take that track that you see it moving, and there's been a noticeable westward shift in the change since yesterday, meaning all of South Florida is expected to see very heavy impacts from this major hurricane. So landfall is expected sometime early Sunday morning. The effects will start as early as Saturday morning with hurricane force wind gusts, torrential rain, severe weather including possible tornadoes on some of those outer rain bands, and storm surge. Obviously, storm surge is the most life-threatening part of these hurricanes when they blast onshore, and that's why everyone who's in a coastal zone absolutely has to evacuate.
So storm surge meaning exactly what again?
So it means the increased wave heights, the strongest wind gusts, and paired with the heavy rain. So, you know, when you're on the beach and you've got 15-foot waves, you know, that'll just knock down everything. And obviously the closer property is to the surging of the storm coming on shore, the more it's compromised.
So people are pretty much, I mean, you guys let me know if you're, especially if you're down there, but people are boarding up stuff and they're getting really prepared.
I mean, some Floridians are used to this and they've done it before.
Sure.
And while it has been a long time since they've gotten hit by a major hurricane, 2004 to be exact, you know, you do that, you sandbag, you board up your house, you evacuate, you bring your pets with you, hopefully, and you just take off for more inland areas.
I saw this amazing headline or a tweet or something. Southwest did a whole flight with pets or animals that were, maybe it was actually for Harvey, but it was like getting pets out of the hurricane wake. So I thought it was really cool. So some of the airlines really stepping it up and doing their thing, which is awesome because the pets thing is scary.
It is. And gosh, I mean, we're just coming off the heels of watching Harvey.
I know, it was heartbreaking.
You know, just destroy Houston and Southeast Texas. And we watched days and days of water rescues, and Harvey was a totally different storm than Irma, but you know, impacts are impacts, people, pets, property. So
what was the biggest difference with Harvey and Irma? I know they were totally different storms, but
well, Harvey was less about storm surge and wind and more about just torrential rain and flooding. So both are catastrophic impacts. You know, whether it's flooded homes and buildings or and high water rescues and people drowning, driving their cars into water, or a more traditional landfalling hurricane, which is the storm surge, which, you know, is hurricane force winds. In this case, major hurricane force winds over 120 miles an hour. I mean, standing at 120 mile an hour wind is going to rip the roof off your house, upturn cars, you know, everything.
Right. So flooding, not really a big thing in Florida
it's
ever.
Really not. I mean, you know what? It'll be an issue, especially when it comes on shore with the storm. So with the storm surge and the 20-foot waves, you're going to see a lot of flooding. That likely will recede. And Irma's a hurricane on the move. Harvey was stagnant. Harvey didn't move for 5 days. Irma will be blasting through over the weekend, but it's on the move. So, you know, our rainfall forecast for Irma was up to 12 inches of rain. In Harvey, there was 50 inches of rain.
So
that's
different.
your difference.
Yeah, there you go, guys. So, and then I was hearing at the early set, I guess it was like 400 something in diameter miles, but now it's different. Now it's smaller, Irma, or do you know the size?
It's still pretty large. I would say
it's wider.
It's wide. It's about like 300 miles in diameter. This is a rough estimate.
Yeah.
You get the idea. But the Florida Peninsula
covers,
the South Florida Peninsula is about 100 miles wide, so it's 3 times the size, and so it's like, you know, it's just going to like swallow all of Florida as it comes in. Different areas will feel different effects. As Mike said, the latest track puts a landfall over the Keys. Listen, whether it's the Keys, whether it's Miami, whether it's Everglades, it doesn't matter. All of South Florida has to brace for a catastrophic impact. Yeah, it's such a narrow area. Now, we will definitely see once all is said and done and we find out where Irma exactly landed. You know, you'll see some areas hit harder than others for sure, depending on where they were in the path of the storm.
Wow. Okay, guys. Well, we'll have more. I see that some of you are just watching. And add your comments as they come in. We're going to have more on our digital platforms, all of our stuff, YouTube, Facebook, our website, Fox 5 DC. We're going to be following it all weekend. Yep. I think we have probably Gary in here or whatnot.
Yeah, we'll have Gwen coming in later this afternoon. And Gwen and Gary will both be here over the weekend. Of course, myself, Mike, Sue, Tucker, everyone will be updating social media all weekend long.
Yeah, guys, so check out there. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you, Molly.
Have a great weekend.
Yes, you too. Great weather here in DC this weekend,
guys.
I gotta say.
I know.
It's gonna be beautiful, so enjoy it. All right, thank you for that.
Thanks. All right, guys, if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, thanks so much for joining us here in the newsroom. We're going to be talking to a man called Ryan Stone. He's down in Florida right now, and he's not leaving for this storm, which is a pretty interesting story, but we're going to get him on Skype, so stay with us if you are still on with us and debating clicking off this stream. We're going to bring him in on Skype, so just give me a minute to set it up. And this is a little shot here of Broward County. We've been seeing officials speaking. You see the sort of the winds kind of picking up. I mean, not too much really to see in this bump shot right here, but as we get more feeds in, we're going to bring you those updates right up to the minute. And like I mentioned before, the governor spoke this morning. He's been giving sort of periodic updates, Governor Rick Scott down in Florida, on what to expect and really urging people on what to do, which is interesting because we're going to get Ryan on the phone on Skype to tell us about his sort of experience, what it looks like on the beach down there. So that's coming up in just a second. So stay with us right here and take a look here at Key West. We're still kind of looking at this traffic. Looks pretty light right now, but people are exiting out as they should be, as the governor said this morning from that area. So we're going to get Ryan on the phone and we'll be right back. Hey guys, if you are still with us on the stream, thanks for joining us on Fox 5 Live. You can see I'm in the newsroom today, and we're just tracking hurricane coverage as Florida braces for Irma this weekend. We just talked to a couple of our weather meteorologists, of course. Caitlin Roth and Mike Thomas were in here, so getting the constant updates because we've been really talking about this and tracking it for the whole week. But just coming up in a few moments, I'm trying to get him on Skype right now. We're going to be talking to Ryan Stone. He's down on the beach in Florida. I'm going to get his exact location when he calls in, but he is staying in Florida instead of evacuating as has been recommended. And a lot of people are sort of for various reasons. Possibly they couldn't get out or they have other personal reasons. But we're going to sort of get a live look at what it is like down there and sort of how he's preparing for everything. So if you're not in that area and you don't know really how that works, because I don't, we're going to get a live sort of update from him and a little more know-how on how that all goes down. So just waiting on him for that. But for now, been kind of showing you just around the different radars and different stuff that we have coming in. As we get more updates from officials, politicians, everything, we're going to bring that to you guys live. Looks like we're getting one in right now, so let's jump over there before we get Ryan on the phone.
Also asking for your patience. I was working as the fire chief for the city of Miami when Hurricane Andrew hit about 25 years ago. And one of the things I learned was the importance of preparing for after the storm. FEMA has agents in place in Georgia and Alabama, so help will be coming. It may take them a little while because the path of the storm is actually heading toward Georgia and Alabama. Again, once again, I'd like to remind everybody that 911 is for emergencies only. Please call 311 for questions related to the storm or visit www.miamidade.gov. You can get the information you require probably faster, a lot faster on our website. Our 311 call centers are now operating 24 hours a day, and you may experience wait times if you call 311. So please be patient and stay on the line. As you can obviously imagine, we are deluged with calls. I want to thank Senator Marco Rubio for being with us earlier today. I also like to thank our county commissioners for leading their districts during this very challenging time. These are all the updates that I have at this time. Thank you for your attention, and now I'll provide some of the remarks in Spanish. Buenas tardes a todos. Estoy seguro que muchos de ustedes recibieron una alerta de emergencias en sus teléfonos anoche y hoy en la mañana de advertencia de huracán oficial. Esto significa que se espera condiciones de huracán en las próximas 36 horas. El pronóstico que podamos ver y sentir condiciones del tiempo no seguros a partir de mañana, por la mañana y durante el domingo. Esto va a ser una tormenta bastante lenta y va a tomar tiempo para que pase. Según el aviso de las 11 de la mañana, Irma se debilitó a un huracán de categoría 4 y sigue siendo una tormenta muy, muy peligrosa. El Servicio Meteorológico Nacional me informó ayer que Irma es oficialmente uno de los huracanes más potentes en la historia del Atlántico. El momento de preparación para la tormenta se acerca muy rápido. En estos momentos usted debe tener al menos alimentos para 3 días. Lo repito de nuevo que el agua del condado de Miami-Dade es segura. Pueden tomarla, abran la llave y llenen las botellas que tengan en la casa. Lleven las ollas y cazuelas, llenen con agua todo lo que tengan del agua del condado de Miami-Dade. La orden de evacuación que di ayer sigue en pie. Los residentes que viven en las casas móviles y la zona A y B y partes de C deben haberse evacuado ya. Les hemos pedido a más de 600,000 personas que dejen sus casas. Esta es la evacuación más grande que yo.
All right, guys, so as he continues in Spanish, we're going to come back into the newsroom because we're still waiting for Ryan on Skype. He's going to be calling in. He's actually going to be on Hollywood Beach, which is just outside of Miami. I'm going to show you the map to see exactly where he is. And I'm seeing some of you guys comment. Thanks so much for joining in with us here on the stream. So some of you have family in Florida, in South Florida. Some of you expressing that you would have evacuated, Megan, saying you would have evacuated days ago. I think that's definitely a smart bet, a safe bet. I think I possibly would have done the same. I know a lot of people have extenuating circumstances and reasons perhaps that they haven't been able to. And we were talking earlier with Caitlin, I think flights there is a curfew, there's a time where it sort of all comes to a close today. And flights are going to stop going out of there. So a lot of people making that trek, causing some of that traffic or upcoming traffic out of the Florida Keys, which Mike was saying are going to get hit pretty badly in this. If you guys have friends or family down there, let us know in the comments. And We'll try to also, you can see in the read more section right in this post, you can read all about the updates in writing if you want to read our web story, because we're going to continue to cover this digitally, of course, today and through the weekend. So you can always check in on what's happening there. But once I have Ryan on Skype, we're gonna sort of get his view of everything. He's going to show us the beach, and I'm going to show you exactly where he is. And we're going to talk about, you know, why he's staying and what it looks like down there and how it's going for those people. So if you have any questions, keep them coming. And any questions for him too, we'll comment and we'll ask him so we can just get the full rundown. Just kind of chatting with someone that's right there in the storm. So we're still waiting on him, and we're taking a look here. This is Broward County, guys. Earlier there were some updates from them. You can see sort of the winds a little slow there, but picking up, and they've been good about getting officials out there to talk about what to expect and what people should be doing in that county. So other people in South Florida, Caitlin was saying the Miami area, obviously taking the brunt of it. And okay, it looks like Ryan is calling in, so we're gonna get him up. All right, hang on one second. Hey, Ryan.
Hey.
What's up? Can you see us?
Yeah, I can see you.
Awesome. So this is Ryan Stone. He is down on Hollywood Beach, you were saying, right? Which is outside of Miami. Give us a little look around and tell us kind of where you are and why you're there right now.
Yeah, I actually am on Hollywood Beach on the boardwalk here, or the Broadwalk. And you can see behind me here, I think everything's pretty well boarded up. Most people have gone ahead and gotten out of town. The parking lots are very empty, and everybody's been preparing for Irma to get here, I guess, in the next 48 hours or a little bit less than that.
Yeah, it looks like it. So you do you live in this area? Did you run down to the beach? Are you right there?
I actually live about a mile off the beach in Dania Beach.
Okay.
And I was originally going to go out there near the Dania Beach Pier and was unable to get there as they have the entire parking lot, keep people from going out to the water. So I came one town south here down to Hollywood, which is just 2 towns south of Fort Lauderdale.
I'm going to show you guys the map. I mean, it's a little small. In the corner of your screen, you can sort of see that red point. That's where he is, Hollywood Beach, just north there of Miami. And it looks like you're going to be right there in the thick of it, right? So you're staying around.
Yeah, we're going to stay in the area. I'm actually, everyone in Broward County east of US 1 is under a mandatory evacuation. So our plan is tomorrow morning, we're going to go inland. We have 2 plans, a friend who has a house with a newer roof and the hurricane windows. And then our backup plan is to go to one of the shelters here in Broward County that they've opened up.
So what is that like? They've opened up these, I haven't actually really heard the details. They've opened up sort of safe, boarded up shelters that people can go to if they're stuck, or?
Yeah, they have a lot of shelters opened. I believe, I couldn't give you an exact number. I think it's at least 10 of them. I know one of them had already filled up, and it's in a lot of them are in the schools, the newer buildings that are rated for the hurricanes and able to sustain those winds. And they, the unfortunate part about going to those is they tell you got to bring everything you need. So there's no beds provided. You bring blankets and pillows and everything you need to kind of hunker down and ride the storm out.
Wow, that's awesome. So give me a look around. Are there people on this beach? Is anyone around, or?
Yeah, we've got, I think you can see back there a few people. Let's see here. Not too many are actually out on the beach. It already started getting a little windy.
It looks like it, yeah.
So we've got it was yesterday was very calm, beautiful sunny day. People were at the pool at our condo. And today you can kind of see here, I believe the waves are starting to kick up a little bit. The Atlantic's going, the wind's blowing a little harder, and we're starting to anticipate getting some of those first feeder bands. I was watching the local coverage just about an hour ago, and they said that there's we're going to start seeing some of those bands come through today. Nothing with hurricane force winds, just mainly fast moving rainstorms, but we ought to start feeling those later on today.
Wow, that's a really great description of everything. It looks like there are some people, which is interesting. And like we were talking about earlier this morning, the storm surge is sort of coming with the high waves and the wind. So Ryan, did you consider leaving for this, or were you always going to kind of just stay? I mean, obviously people have personal reasons they have to stay around, but what was your thought on that?
Tomorrow morning. So given that, we decided the better choice, the more responsible choice was going to be to make a plan to stay down here, go ahead and evacuate out of the mandatory evacuation zone and get into a safe building and ride the storm out down here rather than get on the roads. But I got to say the elected officials down here, the government down here, really did a good job of issuing those evacuation orders early. Mm-hmm. They got the keys cleared out real fast. Broward issued earlier than the hurricane watch was issued, and just really started to get people out and going. I've got quite a few friends who hit the interstates in the past few days here, and they've gone up to Georgia and Tennessee and Carolinas to get out of the way.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to bring you guys some of that video, too, of the public officials who are issuing those mandatory evacuations and talking about updates for the county as well. But tell me also on a personal note, when you walk around, when you see the grocery stores and stuff, what is that like? Are they pretty crazy, or are they empty, or?
Yeah, the shelves at the groceries are empty, and they're actually closing most of the grocery stores today around noon in Miami-Dade and Broward County, so that those folks can get their plans taken care of. But the shelves have been going empty for about at least 2 days here. Really and truly, Tuesday we started seeing the lines at the pumps. I filled up with gas on Tuesday, and it took me about 20 minutes to get through the lines.
Wow.
So we've seen everybody really grabbing a lot of gas and getting stocked up on their water, and the bread aisles are all empty.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, the officials are instructing everybody to, if you can't buy the bottled water at the store, to take the containers, fill them up, freeze the water in plastic bags, do those sorts of precautions so that if and when we do lose power, we're still able to have the ice and the water and everything.
Yeah, so are you prepped for losing power? I mean, do you have everything kind of in place? I know you have a sort of a game plan and a possible backup plan.
We're as prepared as you can be, I think. Our friend's house that we to has a generator hooked up to the house. So we'll be prepared in that respect. And then as far as getting the house ready, our house, unfortunately, if the storm surge comes in anywhere in that 6 to 10 foot range, we're on the first floor of our condo, and we're at risk of severe flooding there. So we're just preparing everything as though we're going to have the worst and kind of hope for the best.
Wow, so you're on the first floor of a condo. So what is sort of the first step? What do you even do? Do you grab important items? What do you?
We've the past couple of days here, we've been gathering all our items, the passports, IDs, birth certificates, those sorts of things, car insurance paperwork, title work. Tomorrow morning when we leave the house, we're going to bring the computers and everything with us inland. And other than that, at best, we are going to put stuff up on the kitchen counters as high as they can go and in rooms, and kind of hope that most of it survives, but we'll just kind of have to see what happens.
Are you guys sort of bracing for maybe self-service going out? I mean, you're looking really clear here and it's coming in well, but what about that? Have you kind of thought about that?
Yeah, actually, I know I've downloaded, and a lot of my friends have, there's an app called Zello we've been told about.
Okay.
And we tested it out. It turns the phone into kind of a walkie-talkie. And I believe it requires at least a Wi-Fi signal to work, which Xfinity, the local cable provider, has opened up their hotspots for the state of Florida for free. So everybody will have access to their hotspots as long as they're up. So, kind of fingers crossed that hopefully we don't lose cell service. And if we do lose cell service, that those hotspots are able to get us online, keep us in touch with loved ones.
That's really, really cool. I hadn't heard about that new sort of digital aspect of it. So you were mentioning getting gas and stuff. I think the governor yesterday or someone was saying talking about really conserving the gas that you pump because other people may be in need of it. Have you witnessed any of that at the gas stations, or?
I can only speak to when I was there, and I know.
In and out.
Right. As far as I full tank of gas in there, and made sure my car was filled up, and that was all we did. So
okay, so you filled it up.
And, yeah, we filled it up, and with us not evacuating, we want to make sure because we don't know how long it'll be after the storm until we're able to get those sorts of services.
Yeah, so our Skype is a little spotty, but it's actually pretty good for such a major storm that's coming through there, so it's pretty awesome. Can you give us another look around? Looks like there's some people kind of going by.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see we've got some locals here who I'm guessing are probably all prepared, and that's the biggest thing. A lot of us have already gone ahead and completed all our preparations, and we're just fixing up some last minute things, and now it's just a waiting game.
Right, right. So there are some like words out there and some memes that are talking about Floridians being super staunch in staying and they're going to stick around. Is that sort of the consensus down there? Is that what you guys are like?
No, I wouldn't think so. I kind of described this one. Usually the category 1 or 2 hurricane, although they are serious events, I'd never really think about evacuating. Anything above a 4, and in this case a 5, certainly I think most Floridians will tell you evacuation is the preference. And if it's not available to us, well, then you just make for the situation. But I got to think, and as you can see with the boardwalk, the business owners down here, they're not messing around. They went ahead and boarded up yesterday and shut down their businesses and made sure they got their employees taken care of. So I think everybody's taking this very seriously, and anybody who was able and capable and had the time to be able to evacuate on time, they all hit the road and did that. And those of us who did not, I think you're seeing the coastal regions, the ones who are under the mandatory evacuation order to get off the coast, everybody seems to be heeding that pretty well.
That's awesome. Well, you've been in this area for a long time. You know the area. You've been through some storms, I'm sure, but probably not as severe as this one, right?
I was not in South Florida for Andrew. I lived in the Tampa area for most of my life. I've been through a few hurricanes down here, but definitely nothing of this magnitude.
So do you have any sort of trepidation with what's going to happen? Are you a little nervous or no?
Definitely nervous, but you gotta, at some point, you just come to the realization that you've done everything you can to prepare, and it's just a matter of, okay, which exact track will the storm take? Where's it going to go through? Because the eye wall ranges from anywhere from 25 to 50 miles out with the hurricane force winds. So whatever path that goes along is going to be pretty rough. Then we got to worry about the storm surge and see where that comes, and you just got to kind of trust the process and hope for the best.
Yeah, so I just put up the map. We were looking at it earlier with Caitlin on where it's going, and we're kind of watching it, and we'll be keeping on this coverage throughout the weekend. But Ryan, thanks so much for the bird's eye view. This is really cool to see. It looks like the wind is picking up, but it's not too crazy just yet, right?
No, nothing too crazy yet. A normal, pretty nice South Florida day with a little bit of and it's just we all know what's coming. Normally the beach would be really packed right now if this hurricane wasn't on the way.
Yeah, and you guys are seeing the pinned website right below this stream if you want to check in for more details. We're keeping that coverage going, keeping our web story updated as much as possible. And this is Ryan Stone live in Hollywood Beach, Florida, which is just north of Miami. And you guys are going to get a lot of this storm, so you are bracing yourselves for it.
Definitely are.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ryan, for checking in, and good luck. Godspeed.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Well, we'll bring it back into the newsroom. So I was putting up that map just so you guys could see sort of where exactly he was, but pretty awesome. Definitely a little bit of a daredevil, I think. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. And thanks so much for watching on Facebook, guys. We're going to be right back as we check in and keep these sort of updates coming from officials and any bump shots or cameras that we have down there. Take a look right here at Broward County. That's a shot that we have coming in. We've had that sort of on there for the morning. And then also Miami area is this picture here. and I'm sure we'll be getting in some more as well. So we're gonna keep it right here for just a second and be back with more updates on the hurricane. Thanks, guys. Okay, guys, you're looking now at a live shot of people waiting to get into some sort of shelter in Miami-Dade County. So we're going to put that right up there. We just got this shot in, and we were just talking to Ryan, who says that's their backup plan, is to go to a shelter that they've prepared. A lot of them are at schools, places that know how to keep things secure in events like this. So it sounds like at least he has that type of backup, but that's what it looks like right now. It looks like people are getting a little frantic down there, as is expected, I think. Yeah, no sound on this one, but a live look at people waiting in line for this. So take a look right here. Bring that full screen.
Center is reporting that Hurricane Irma remains a dangerous and life-threatening Category 4 storm with winds of 150 miles per hour. A storm surge warning is in effect for Sebastian Inlet southward around the peninsula to Venice and the Florida Keys. A storm surge watch is in effect for north of Sebastian Inlet to Ponce Inlet. The storm surge is forecast to be 3 to 12 feet. Think about that, 3 to 12 feet. Across this area, which is life-threatening. A hurricane warning is in effect for Jupiter Inlet southward around the Florida Peninsula to Bonita Beach, the Florida Keys, Lake Okeechobee, and Florida Bay. A hurricane watch is in effect for north of Jupiter Inlet to the Flagler-Volusia County line, and north of Bonita Beach to Anclote River. Rainfall is forecast to be 8 to 12 inches, with isolated areas receiving up to 20 inches of rain. Based on what we know now, the majority of Florida will have major hurricane impacts with deadly storm surge and life-threatening winds. We expect this along the entire East Coast and West Coast. The Florida Keys should be prepared to start feeling the effects of this storm tomorrow morning. If you're in the Panhandle, you will also experience severe weather. Please be prepared for this. Evacuations. I've ordered school buses to aid evacuations statewide. Multiple counties have accepted these buses, and I encourage any counties with a need for buses to evacuate residents request buses right now. Our traffic and roadways experts report that the Keys are heavily evacuated. All gas stations in the Keys are currently closed, but if you're still in the Keys, get out now. We will quickly run out of good weather to evacuate. If you need any help in the state to evacuate, 1-800-342-3557. But if you're in the Keys, leave now. Anywhere in the state, if you're told to evacuate, leave, get out quickly. I'm a dad and I'm a grandfather. I love my family. I can't imagine life without them. Do not put yourself or your family at risk. If you've been ordered to evacuate and are still home, please go to a shelter. I encourage everyone to check on your neighbors. If you know someone in your neighborhood who is not evacuating and should, please contact them. Take care of each other. Please check on your neighbors with special needs or the elderly. And if you can take people in, please do it. Today is the day to do the right thing for your family and get to safety. Today is the day the right thing for your family and every family in the state to make sure you have a plan and get to safety. This storm is wider than an entire state and is expected to cause major and life-threatening impacts from coast to coast. Remember, Hurricane Andrew is one of the worst storms in the history of the state. Irma is more devastating on its current path. Irma has already caused multiple fatalities in the Caribbean. This storm is powerful and deadly. We are being very aggressive in our preparation for this storm, and every Floridian should take this seriously and be aggressive to protect their family. Possessions can be replaced, your family cannot. I know it's hard to evacuate, and it's very uncomfortable. I think about my mom and how hard it would have been for her to be completely broke with kids and have to evacuate. But you have to do it. If you can't afford not to do it, think about your family. You have to keep your family safe. To private business owners, please be compassionate with your employees as they prepare for this storm and evacuate. I was a business owner when Hurricane Andrew devastated the state 25 years ago. The single most important thing right now is the safety of your employees and their families. For the remainder of the state waiting on evacuation orders, listen to your local officials. They will tell you if and when your area needs to be evacuated. Listen to them. Follow the news. We can expect additional evacuations as this storm continues to come up through the state. I cannot stress this enough. Do not ignore any evacuation orders. All Floridians should be prepared to evacuate. Lake Okeechobee. Based on recent forecasts, the U.S. Army Corps has been reviewing how the federally operated dike will be impacted. I spoke to Colonel Jason Kirk with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers last night, and I met with the Corps today. They believe there will be additional impacts from excessive wind pushing some water over the dike. They have assured me that the structural integrity of the dike will not be compromised, but they're worried about water flowing over the top. I ordered evacuations in the cities surrounding the southern half of Lake Okeechobee from Lakeport to Canal Point in Hendry, Palm Beach, and Glades counties. The decision was made due to our sole focus on life safety. Traffic. I know many of you are stuck in traffic, and I know you have to be frustrated. All I ask is to be patient. Evacuations are not convenient, but the goal is for them to be safe. I'm glad so many people are driving to safe places. We have increased the number of troopers on Florida highways to help move traffic and keep people moving, going down the road. We have 1,700 troopers working 12-hour shifts. These dedicated officers are 100% focused on safety and aren't taking a day off. Also, all administrative duties have been suspended at FHP. This means all sworn FHP officers are on roads helping families evacuate and bringing supplies to areas of need. We've also increased the number of road rangers who are patrolling Florida's roadways 24/7 to assist motorists. Around the state, we have hundreds of DOT workers monitoring traffic cameras 24/7 to ensure traffic flows continue and evacuations proceed without interruptions. All of this is to help everyone that's going to evacuate get safely to where they need to go. Contraflow. We still need southbound lanes to get needed gas and supplies down to shelters and families that need it in the southern parts of the state. Contraflow inhibits our ability to get emergency vehicles to people that need them. Right now, to ease congestion, we have activated the use of shoulders on I-75 from Wildwood to the Georgia line. But please drive very safely and listen to law enforcement. They're working to keep you and your family safe. Real-time traffic information and evacuation routes are available at fl511.com. We're seeing bottlenecks at major highway junctions, which brings up an important point. If you do not need to evacuate out of the state or hundreds of miles away to stay safe, there's a lot, you don't always have to do that. There is going to be shelters all around the state. So if you don't need to be on the road, get off and go to a shelter. We are coordinating with Google Emergency Response Team to prepare to close roads on Google Maps in real time in the event Hurricane Irma forces the closure of any roads. In my direction, all tolls on all the roads in the state have been waived. Visit Florida's Welcome Centers have transitioned to emergency information centers to help direct evacuees with the most up-to-date information. Visit Florida's Welcome Center staff and are all Red Cross certified and stand ready to assist as needed. If you are concerned that you don't have a way to evacuate due to traffic, please call the emergency hotline 1-800-342-3557. We will do everything possible to get you out. Fuel. One of our top priorities has been fuel availability. I was alerted yesterday by Vice President Pence that the federal government has waived additional rules and regulations to allow more fuel to get to Florida fast. I want to thank the EPA, I want to thank the President, the Vice President for all their efforts to help us get more fuel in the state. We know there are problems with supply at gas stations. State law enforcement are providing escort services to gas trucks to get them through traffic so they can get to these stations faster. These law enforcement escorts have continued throughout the night, and they'll go as long as possible. You've probably seen some of them around the state. For gas stations and evacuation zones, we need to stay open as long as possible so people can get fuel and get out. We will arrange police escorts for your employees so they can get out safely. So please stay open. If you're in an evacuation zone in your gas station, please stay open as long as you can. We all know how important fuel is. We're devoting every state resource, and the federal government is working to try to make sure we have all the fuel we can get here. 3 tanker trucks delivering fuel to Port Tampa Bay yesterday. We got 3 tanker trucks in, each delivering 1.2 million gallons of fuel. State law enforcement continues to escort fuel supply trucks from Port Tampa Bay, Jacksport, and Port Everglades directly to gas stations. As of 6 p.m. last night, 8.4 million gallons of fuel was shipped into Port Everglades, and more than 5 million gallons of fuel were shipped in Port Tampa Bay. We are aggressively working to move excess fuel stage in Niceville to communities throughout Central Florida. While we're making progress, unfortunately, you're still going to see lines, and unfortunately, you're going to still see outages. I can't imagine how frustrating you have to be. I can just tell you, none of us are going to stop working on it. However, if you're in an evacuation zone in South Florida, just remember, you need to leave now. Port Everglades will be closing tonight for safety, and gas will no longer be resupplied into much of South Florida until after the storm. If you're concerned you do not have enough fuel to evacuate, please call the state emergency hotline, 1-800-342-3557. But you have to call now. You cannot call in the middle of the storm. You have to call now so we can get you out. If you know you're going to a shelter in your county, you don't have to fill up your tank all the way. So be considerate of others, because others might have to be going further away. There's an app, Gas Buddy app, is a great resource to find opening stations with fuel. All ports still remain open and are operating to bring fuel and supplies in. Shelters. Last night, I directed the closure of all schools in the state, K-12, state colleges and universities, and all state offices for their normal activities. And it's today through Monday. The goal is to ensure we have all the space available for sheltering and staging. Floridians have to have access to as many shelters as possible. We're still going to see more evacuations in the northern part of the state. Fortunately, over 17,000 people have signed up to volunteer. We need more volunteers. You can go to the Volunteer Florida website, volunteerflorida.org, to sign up. We can't thank the ones that have signed up enough, but we're going to need more. There's absolutely no reason for anyone not to evacuate if you're ordered to do so. Shelters are available around the state, and you should follow the direction of the local officials to go to the shelter that fits your needs. You can go to floridadisaster.org/shelter to find a shelter in your county or neighboring county. If you need a hotel, you can go to expedia.com/Florida. Expedia is trying to help us in real time on hotel occupancy. Airbnb has activated its disaster response program. If you're an evacuee in need of a place to stay, or you're an air hub or Airbnb host looking to open a house for an evacuee, go to airbnb.com/disaster. The Florida Restaurant Lodging Association has encouraged all hotels to waive pet policies, offer shelter, and be compassionate with cancellations. National Guard. We've already activated 7,000 members, which is right now every available member of the National Guard we have has been activated. Law enforcement. Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission is preparing search and rescue teams for potential deployment and has more than 200 officers standing by for the first wave of response based on potential storm impacts. We've been reaching out to law enforcement across the state to make sure they have all the resources they need to keep people safe. Utility providers. They're actively pre-positioning resources throughout the state and in neighboring states. We all know how important both fuel is and how important power is going to be. We will aggressively work with the utilities to make sure if you lose power, to get your power back on as quickly as we can. I want to thank the governors of other states that have provided every time I've asked for something, they've provided it. I know the entire country is behind us. I know the president's behind us. And we have the best first responders in the country spread throughout the state and neighboring states ready to help. But we are running out of time. The storm is almost here. If you're in an evacuation zone, you need to go now. This is a catastrophic storm that this state has never seen before. We can rebuild your house. You can get your possessions again. We cannot rebuild your life, and we cannot rebuild your family. Protecting life is our absolute top priority. There will be no resource or expense spared to protect a family. Florida is tough. Florida is resilient. Florida is unbreakable. We all have to stay together and help each other. Florida is an amazing melting pot of loving people, and I'm proud to be governor of this great state. Este huracán es muy peligroso. Si vida es lo más importante. Cada familia debe de tener un plan. Por favor, salgan si están en zona de evacuación. Para más información, por favor llamen al 1-800-342-3557. Mi prioridad es que todos, familias, turistas, están seguros y preparados. Tienen que tener 3 días de agua, alimentos y las medicinas que necesiten. Como gobernador, mi prioridad es que todos en la Florida estén seguros. Now I'd like to introduce the Attorney General. One thing is it's disgusting if anybody price gouges. I've said this around the state. I've said it on national television. We have an Attorney General that will prosecute people for price gouging. This is the time to help our neighbors. This is not the time to take advantage of our neighbors.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor. Thank you for everything you're doing in your leadership. Thank you to EOC. Thank you to FEMA and all our law enforcement officers. And I agree the White House has been amazingly responsive, and I'd like to thank them as well. We've received over 6,500 complaints of price gouging. Right now we're at the rate of over 100 per hour. These are very important for you to report. 1-866-9-NO-SCAM. Or even better, if you have access to internet, myfloridalegal.com. Go on there, take a picture, send that with your complaint. What I'm asking you to do now is to prioritize. The most important ones for us right now are the life-saving ones. Save the bad ones that have made you mad. Send them to me after the hurricane, and I'll go after them. Don't worry about that. But right now, what I need you to do are the complaints about the hotels are reaching up almost to 200 right now. Restaurant and Lodging Association, Carol Dover, they've been amazing, but we have some hotels out there that are gouging. My people are out in the field right now. The Sheriff's Office is going to be assisting us. Thank you, Colonel Cronister and Sheriff G, for that. But prioritize, please. Send me the complaints on hotels and on fuel. What I need on fuel, I need you to take a picture of how much they're selling it for and give me the location of the fuel station, and we will get there. Thanks to the EPA, they've driven down the price of fuel So there's no reason for fuel to be at these exorbitant rates at many multiple gas stations. You've heard me talk about Chevron. We had a big problem with Chevron in South Florida. I've talked to Chevron corporate. I cannot thank them enough now. They have been incredibly cooperative. They are going after each individual franchise owner who's trying to hurt people. The majority of complaints about water have come, we're in the hundreds now, well over 100 against 7-Eleven stores. 7-Eleven, come on. This isn't the time to make a buck. This is the time to help your fellow citizens. Don't be profiting off water. We don't want you to lose money, but sell water at cost, or at least at a reasonable price to our citizens, because we will be coming after you if you're not doing that, as well as any other servicer of water. But the main things, again, are hotels, fuel, and then water. Anything else that's made you mad, keep those and give them to me after the hurricane. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney General. Now we're going to hear from Mayor Bob Buckhorn. My experience, we got elected about the same time, and I can tell you he's somebody that's focused on making sure everybody in this community is safe.
Governor, thank you. And I think what you see up here is a team that trains for this, hopefully never having to execute it, but it is a team that we prepare every day, every year for these types of circumstances. The state has been an amazing partner for us. The governor has been an amazing partner. I think when you look behind me and see every organization that is represented here, you know these are folks from Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office to Mike Merrill, the County Administrator, Hillsborough County Fire Department, TPD, TFR, that is ready to execute. I mean, we've moved into execution mode. This is game day for us. And we play on Sundays the way we train during the week, and we have trained hard during the week. This is a storm, as you heard the governor say, that has potentially catastrophic impact. The track has moved a little bit to the west. Therefore, we will be impacted on the west coast more than we had anticipated. So we need to take the appropriate precautions. It seems to be largely a wind and a rain-driven storm, but surge is going to and remains an issue. Effective 2 o'clock today, I have put in place an evacuation for flood zone level A. Those are some of the low-lying areas in Tampa that we know historically hold water. We're hopeful that the surge, because we're on the backside of that storm, will not be that significant, but we've got to prepare, particularly for those senior citizens and folks that have infirmities that would cause them to be in harm's way. One of the things that the governor said, and you heard from the Attorney General, and all of us up here would echo, look out for your neighbor. I mean, we know who those vulnerable citizens are. We know who those seniors are. We know who those people who may have had some health issues. Look out for your neighbor. Take care of them. Be a great Floridian. We're going to get through this. We're going to come out at the back end of this. There will be challenges. Our friends on the East Coast are in our prayers because I think it's going to be a long couple days for them. But as Floridians, we need to rise to the occasion. You can count on this group to execute. We know what we're doing. We're trained for this. We're prepared now. It's game day. We're going to get this done. But we got to look out for each other and use common sense. My family is leaving Davis Islands. We're going to go to higher ground. You do not have to go to Georgia to be safe. You can go to another flood zone that is safer for you. Find a friend. Find somebody that you can spend time with that you've missed. And we're going to get through this all right. But look out for your neighbor. Be a good Floridian. Be a good neighbor. Be a good human being. And we're going to be okay at the end of this. But let's get this right. We don't have a second chance to do this right.
We'll be glad to answer any questions anybody has.
Governor, when is the latest? Now means now, but when's the latest someone who plans to take the interstate should do it to avoid what we saw with Rita, kind of gridlock we saw with Hurricane Floyd back in 1999?
The bottom line is you ought to get on, look at FL. First off, if you're in an evacuation zone, leave. It's as simple as that. If you're not, all right, and you want to get to, and by the way, if you're in an evacuation zone, you can look at a shelter, look at a friend's house. And you can go to inlet a little ways to get away from it. But I would check that first before you drive a long distance. Now, if you need to drive a long distance, go to fl511.com. You can see exactly what the roads are going to be like. We do have bottlenecks, and we've got fuel issues, and we're doing everything we can to continue to get the fuel down here. We're trying to prioritize right now to make sure we get the fuel on the evacuation routes around the state because we have so many people coming up from the south to the north. But if you can evacuate and stay in your county, that's what you should be doing.
Is there a risk you could have sitting ducks for 20 plus hours like we saw in Texas with Rita, like we saw employed?
My goal is we're tracking all of it. We've got 1,700 troopers working. I know I've been talking to sheriffs around the state all day. They're providing resources to get the traffic moving. We're doing everything we can. But here's don't wait. If you're going to leave, leave, and get on the road and get out of here. Whatever you're going to do, why wait until just when the wind starts? If you know what's going to happen, do it now. Where the mistake is when people wait. Like if you know you're going to evacuate, do it today. I've canceled all the schools around the state. Businesses are closing down. Take care of your family. I mean,
Governor, you said that other governors have given you whatever you've asked for. What have you asked for in most states?
so generally, so far what it's been is I need the governors in other states to also waive their rules with regard to allowing truckers to work longer hours, to eliminate the weight restrictions. We've done, and so everybody I've asked, which allows to get more water down here, more fuel down here, more food down here. Everybody's done that. On top of that, we work together with our National Guard, and so we're pre-positioning assets, some from other National Guards, and some of it just outside the state. On top of that, they're helping us with utilities, because this is a little bit harder than a storm that just comes in from the east or comes from the west, because then you can know where you can pre-position. Now this one's coming straight up the middle of our state, so it's a little harder to pre-position. But everything I've asked for, that's generally what we've asked for so far. But they're reaching out proactively to me. So we have offered school buses. We've offered. So let's start with the Keys. So we have one road out of the Keys. All right. So what we did is we offered school buses to say, if you can't get out of the Keys for any other reason, we will provide school buses to come get you. I did this back. I went through Andrew, and I was running a hospital company at the time, and I lost a hospital, and I evacuated hospitals. And so once something was available to me was school buses to use. And so we've offered school buses to everybody that's doing evacuations around the state. Some people need it, some people don't. I'm sure we're gonna use a lot of it down by Okeechobee in those communities to get people out. So, but every county is working hard. As far as I can tell, we do 2 calls a day at 11:15 and 5:15 with the National Hurricane Center, and everybody's working, but we just got to keep. There's a lot of things we have to get done.
You can see a point where you'll turn the interstates, the southbound lanes northbound, and is there a plan in place if there are people stuck on the highways during the storm?
Absolutely, there is a plan, but the goal is to get people where they want to go before the storm starts. So if you're thinking about getting on the highways to evacuate, I mean, we know when the wind's coming. So get going. And then we will do everything. We've got road rangers, we've got highway safety, we've got local sheriff's department, everybody's working to get you where you're going to go. We're also trying to make sure we have the fuel there, and so we'll do everything we can to make sure no one's stuck. But don't wait until 2 hours before the storm hits.
Governor, for people who are unsure of whether or not they should evacuate, maybe they're in like a B or a C type zone and it's not mandatory yet. Should we be saving spots in our local school shelters or community shelters for those people who are in mandatory zones? Like for people that are just unsure, should they shelter in place to keep those spots open?
The plan is to clearly prioritize, but to make sure we have enough shelters for whoever wants to get out. Right? That's why I closed all the schools statewide, so there'll be more shelter opportunities. That's why I've been asking from volunteers. We're working with the Red Cross to make sure people are certified, so we can open up as many shelters as we need. And so we're everywhere you see people are doing things, and we're making progress. I mean, if you feel comfortable you can stay where you are and it's not a risk, then surely you ought to stay there, because you'd rather be there anyway.
Question: with the change of the direction of the hurricane, there's a lot of anxiety for people, especially on this side now, and people who are thinking about evacuating, who may not have thought about it in the past, and are not being told to evacuate now. What do you tell them? Do they stay? Do they go?
Okay, so the way it works is by county. They're following what the National Hurricane Center is saying, and they're making decisions about where evacuations need to be made. Right? and they're looking at and the big risk with this storm on top of how big it is, and we're going to have rain, so we'll have some flooding. It's really the storm surge. Now, clearly, the southern part of the state right now is at more risk, but if you get 10 feet of storm surge, you get 5 feet of storm surge. I mean, that having 5 feet come in, flow in like that fast into your house and out, that's devastating. But people they're making logical decisions. They're trying to time it to where they give people plenty of time to get out. But if you know you're going to leave, if you've already made the plan to leave, then leave. So I didn't finish your question on the contra. Right now, what we're doing is the first thing we do everything we can to move the traffic. That's what the troopers are doing. The second thing is we allow people to drive on the shoulder. So we're doing that from Wildwood right now to the Georgia line because that increases the number of lanes. The last thing you want to do is the contra lanes because you can't get emergency people down, and we're still trying to get fuel into the state. So hopefully the goal will be that with the shoulder lanes that we can get everybody out that way. So, all right, thanks everybody.
Thank you. Well, that was the latest update, guys, from the governor, Rick Scott. We said we were going to bring you the earlier press conference, but this is the most recent. I think it's really interesting. I like how he was stressing sort of the human aspect of all of this. Like, hey, guys, come together, be Floridians, help each other out. Also, of course, mentioning some of the companies and asking them not to start price gouging during this tough time. Obviously, this is a natural disaster. People need to come together and be normal humans. So that was sort of one of my favorite parts of it. But the governor, they're stressing that people evacuate and do it now, no matter where you are. So we're going to just come back into the newsroom here. I think we're going to basically continue our hurricane coverage on digital, guys. We're going to be more on air, of course, on our evening shows tonight and then throughout the weekend. We're going to keep updating you here. See that link right below this stream. You can click on that for all of the updates. We're going to keep updating that story. And if you missed it, when this stream ends, you can go back into this video and check out the cool interview we did with Ryan Stone. He was down on Hollywood Beach, just north of Miami. He's sticking it out. They're going to stay and possibly go to one of these shelters. Take a look. This is a live look at a shelter in the Miami-Dade County area. And we saw earlier some close-ups of people just lining up to get in. This is actually South Dade County, I believe, high school. So Ryan on the phone, which you can watch back, was mentioning some of these high schools and middle schools are doing this. They're becoming sort of those safe zones, those shelters for people as we track this hurricane. And here, one more time, is the map of what we were looking at this morning. Got a little more expertise from Caitlin and Mike, the meteorologists, here this morning. Here's more of a close-up of this line outside this shelter. And it really does make you think. And I'm seeing some of your comments, guys. A lot of people sending out prayers and to those who are affected. And of course, some comments on the price gouging as well, which you would think wasn't even a thing in a time like this with a natural disaster. Right, it is a shame. There's a little bit of a close-up. So we think, obviously, and pray for these people as they go through this, because it is a very serious thing that we've been tracking and watching all week. And again, mostly kind of looking to Sunday morning, like Caitlin was saying, for when things will all happen in that Miami area. So with that, guys, those are our Hurricane Irma updates. We're going to continue this coverage online and on air, so stay right here on Fox 5 Live. This is us in the newsroom here in DC. You can see our digital newscasts. We're going to be up on YouTube next, so we'll close it down on Facebook and then jump over to YouTube so you can join us there. And we're also here every weekday, 11:30 to 2 p.m., sometimes even longer, with breaking news, just bringing you the live camera angles that you have. And this is me right here and my handle in case you want to follow. We'll just keep updating you on this potentially catastrophic, like we're saying, storm that is about to hit Florida. And keep the questions and comments rolling in. We'll try to get them answered for you. And check out the article right below this stream for more, guys. All right. We're going to leave you with a shot of a satellite picture of Irma as it approaches Florida. And again, continue to follow us on our digital platforms, website, fox5dc.com, and Twitter, of course, Instagram. We're on everything. So join us there. All right, guys. All right, we're back on YouTube, guys. I'm here with Terrence, IT man. What's up? You have the mic? Grab it on. So we want to chat. He's hanging out in the newsroom helping me out. We're going to move from sort of hurricane coverage, even though our main sources right now are live looks here. This is Miami. And we were just chatting about this. It kind of looks like Miami looks. You can tell the wind's kind of picking up, and we're not experts on the weather, but it'll be interesting to see how different it gets when we have this still, hopefully, these camera shots of what it looks like as the wind rolls through, as the storm rolls through.
Yeah, I wonder
it
what
looks
it's
like
gonna
Miami.
look like. It looks like regular day in Miami. I wonder what the transition will be like from it being sunny to just
mayhem
on the rain.
Yeah, you wonder. And I really do think for these people, because Caitlin was saying this is bigger really than anything that has ever really brewed in the Atlantic. So even if you've been in something or remember them from childhood, like we all kind of do, granted I didn't grow up in the Southeast, but it's definitely, this is a big one to be watching. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting thing. Plus it's dominating all of our stuff really this week. Haven't really been able to move from this topic, but we gotta move on for a second and talk about NFL, which started last night, which was so exciting.
Week 1 has begun.
You got your shirt on?
Got the shirt on.
Let me see.
Epic Cowboys.
All right, he's a Cowboys
fan.
guy in DC territory,
DC.
which is crazy.
It's rough out here for people like me, but I root for the home team every once in a while too.
I will say
Redskins are. I support them.
Yeah,
they're just rivals.
And we're getting ready too for that. We mentioned yesterday with Brody Logan in the chair. There's going to be a cool Redskins sort of preview special on Sunday mornings. This Sunday it starts up at 7:30 a.m. It's an hour preview, sort of of the game, and obviously the Sunday their opener against the Eagles.
And also speaking of hurricanes in Miami, the Miami Dolphin game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers has been postponed, so they're not going to play this week because of.
I didn't see that. Okay, I didn't know.
I think they're going to move it.
Sense.
They're moving it like some other week in the future.
Anybody that's on that has a thought on this, feel free to chat us up in the chat. I didn't see that, but that makes sense because the Florida teams.
Yes, Ian Rappert from NFL. He says that due to Hurricane Irma, the Bucks will instead be played there in week 11.
Oh, they totally switched it up.
Yeah, they moved week 1 to week 11. So
they swapped what they'll play. They'll probably be away, I guess.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I know, especially the Houston when Houston had the hurricane, they canceled the Houston and Dallas Cowboys game. Completely, but it was a preseason game, so I don't see why they would need to reschedule that.
Yeah.
But
okay, yeah. Well, speaking of, I mean, the game that I'm trying to go to this year, if I do go to one Redskins and I want to, it's going to be Redskins Cowboys, and that's your
Cowboys,
team.
That's
the
like
big one.
Maybe the biggest rival, I think, other than like Steelers, Ravens.
Oh, totally. They're playing.
There's a bunch out there.
There's a bunch.
But from here, like Cowboys and Indians, it's just like.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's right. It's been like that forever. I watched the Patriots game last night. Obviously, quite brutal ending, but what an opener for the Chiefs, right?
That was one crazy opener. They broke records. I think the rookie.
I saw
that broke records. Alex Smith was balling, man. He was out there. He was definitely handling his business. But yeah, I think the last time the Patriots started the season with a loss like that, they won the Super Bowl against the Seahawks.
So I will say, and not just as a biased fan, but the stats are that the last 3 times the Patriots lost their first opening game, they won the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And the last time they lost to the Chiefs in regular season, they won the Super Bowl. So interesting stats that kind of came out, obviously, with this loss. Bill Belichick obviously being like on to New Orleans, what's next. But it'll be interesting to see the season. They won't go 16-0.
Shout out to the Chiefs too, man. They were. Listen, people don't really talk about the Chiefs winning. They talk about the Patriots losing instead.
You're right, and you want to switch that too.
Yeah, the Chiefs definitely deserve a round of applause for that.
Did you catch it, most of it, or did you stay up?
I watched the second half of it. When I started watching, the Chiefs were down. Yeah, and they came back
close,
just like the Super Bowl.
They came down.
Karma.
Did they come back that much? It was I had to.
It was 42 to like 27.
That's right.
But when I saw the score, it was like 14-17.
Yeah.
So they came back big time.
They did come back, but now I'm trying to think what the point deficit was because I had to step out for a second. I missed the biggest deficit, but I was going to say, yeah, I mean, it was interesting to see how they're going to start out. They had a lot of work to do.
42-27 was the final score.
Yeah.
Nope.
It's exciting. It's exciting times, and we're super pumped to promo the Redskins for Sunday because a lot of you guys, if you're watching locally,
Redskins
you're excited for that.
They got the Eagles this Sunday. It's big on the NFC East.
You guys get to see this. We had, see if I can pull this picture up. We had Tailgate Ted on our morning show this morning, and he has been doing this for 18 years. He sets up an awesome, massive, really exciting tailgate for the Redskins, and he does all this awesome food. There's DJ and music. Super nice guy. At Tailgate Ted is his handle. I'm gonna start. We followed each other. I'm gonna start, seeing him when he comes on the morning show. But
cool.
Kyle was like, "You gotta stop by his tailgate if you go." So we're doing that if we go to a game.
Oh yeah,
it's a must.
We definitely have to. Yeah, FedEx Field. We definitely gotta.
Yeah, we're gonna hit at least one. I'm excited for the season.
I think this Sunday's game is gonna be huge between the Eagles and Skins.
Oh yeah, the Eagles game.
Because there are a lot of Philadelphia Eagle fans as well around here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, big time.
Just the whole NFC East conference. It's
If you guys can see this, I'm gonna bring it. There's Tailgate Ted this morning.
Hey.
I took a little snap with him. He was awesome. Yeah, his food. Yeah, so an exciting time for sports, obviously, as we go into this weekend and sort of the next week. Long awaited. You guys are getting an inside look at our newsroom right now. It's a little, what it is during the lunch hour, but we are excited to be here on YouTube with you guys weekdays. And this is sort of a Friday look, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of quiet. We're all hanging out.
All right, Friday.
Getting some people to chat it up. Yeah. Lots of hurricane coverage, obviously. We still have the same pictures up. If I have any new feeds coming in, I'll bring that to you, of course. But, yeah, looking forward to going into this next week. Of course, the anniversary of September 11th is Monday, which is crazy.
Can't believe it's been, 16 years? Wow.
Because 01, yeah. I remember the 15th anniversary pretty well. But it's all coming up fast, and school has pretty much already started and stuff like that. So
many things happening in the world. The earthquakes.
Into fall. I know. Oh my goodness, the 8.2 on the Richter scale in Mexico, leaving multiple fatalities. I remember reading about that this morning. So nature just can't.
It is
stop.
hurricane season. Prime time hurricane season. So
here's your look. You know what? It's still the same. This is the Miami shot. This is just a live look. It looks pretty gorgeous to me, but wouldn't want to be down there. I thought it was interesting because I'm flying this weekend. Some of the options to fly, the reasonable ones last minute, were through places like Jacksonville or Orlando, and I'm just like, I think they had to do that. Those were the only things left because no one wants to go through those.
Yeah, very true.
So the non-stop flights had these like layovers there, and I'm like, obviously I can't do that when I get stuck. So flying will be interesting this weekend. I know Caitlin is flying off too, so we'll see how it all goes.
How are flight prices these days?
Yeah, do you guys know if you guys have seen this? I mean, they were talking about in Florida, of course, the controversy with some of these airlines, trying to make a little buck for their company, but also gouging people because of the supply and demand thing.
Yeah.
So now, it's like, how much is too much? What's the right thing they should do? We're just getting another source here. I think this is going to be another shot of the shelter, the line outside the shelters in Miami-Dade. Let's see where it is. There it is. Yeah, so these people are waiting to get in, or whatever the sort of the process is there. Ryan was saying, the supermarkets are pretty bone dry, and
imagine gas stations probably. Yeah, it's probably chaos. The people are, man. Be safe out there if you're in Florida.
Yeah.
Please.
Anybody close to it? Let me know. What's up, Graham? Thanks for checking in on the chat as always. If you're on, how's it going? We're tracking coverage of Irma and more stuff.
It looks pretty dry there right now.
Yeah, it does. You wonder if, and people with their parasols and umbrellas, you wonder if this is just to make sure they get a spot because they know it's coming. If it's, you also wonder what enabled them or didn't, or enabled them not, disabled them from getting out of town as was recommended. Or, is it having a place to go? Is it other personal circumstances? It's just
So it started off as a Category 5, am I correct?
Yeah, so
now
exactly.
It's a 4 on the
overnight,
tracker.
exactly. Overnight, and we'll check this out. again. And Caitlin sort of broke this down this morning, but it changed to a 4. You can, obviously, when it hits, we were talking about this, when it hits land, the strength of it sort of decreases, and it can drop down even lower, and that would be good, obviously, for those communities that could get hit hard. But Miami's still looking at possibly
Category
that
4.
4
That's
hit.
crucial.
So these people know what they're doing. They're waiting in line.
I had a friend in Houston, and she basically said she wasn't part of like the major damage areas of Houston, but she said that her basement was completely flooded, and the only way to get around like was by boat or kayak.
And a lot of people were doing that.
Yep. So I mean, I'm sure people in Florida have jet skis. Many people, you know, or like boats if they're by the water.
Yeah, and let me bring you this shot. Kaylin was saying, you know, we got all the expertise. There it is from our meteorologist, but the major differences, right, between Irma coming in strong, super strength in the Atlantic, craziest we've seen, and then Harvey was more about the rain, the low people that were low, so the water, it was way more rain. It was stagnant. It sort of stayed in one place. This one is blasting through, so it could cause a lot of destruction, be crazy, obviously, with those islands, and then drop and sort of dissipate into lesser of a category, and then hopefully people not as affected in Georgia, North Carolina, stuff like that. So been kind of watching that, and that's what we got going on there. So we'll watch it, you know, through the weekend. We'll have more updates for you guys on digital, of course. And yeah, you guys are live on YouTube. Thanks for watching here on Fox 5. What else are you going on today? Are you finishing out your day strong? Some IT stuff?
You know, just keeping updated in the technological world.
Yeah.
Yep. Same old. It's Friday though. I'm ready for the weekend.
I know. Any big plans? Watching football?
Watching football. That's my main goal. It's been a long time, long awaited.
Yeah.
Been many months since the last time we got to see some good football.
Totally. I'm excited. Although the fall weather has sort of thrust itself into our world now. I'll sort of lose the shot. But kind of sad about summer, but you know, fall is nice. I'll take it.
Fall, hurricane season. I mean, it is getting cooler out here too. 70s.
All right, guys. So we are gonna look around for what else is coming in, and I'm hearing word that it's possible, if we get it, the White House press briefing will be live, and we can take you in there when it comes up. So I'll look around for that, bring you some more coverage, and we'll be back with a shot inside the briefing room. Okay, guys, we're back for just a second because there's this crazy video that's coming out from one of our sister stations. Check out this wild chase. Okay, we're gonna like talk about it as it goes, playing it out. Here it is. All right, this is a murder suspect who ends up climbing on top of a car as it's speeding towards him in a high-speed police pursuit, and right after the cop climbs up onto the car and tackles him on this roof. This is crazy. As he's running through, he thinks he's a superhero or whatever, action figure, and then
he thinks he's in Grand Theft Auto.
He thinks he's in Grand Theft Auto. Oh my gosh. He gets tackled to the ground in the highway. Those cars stopping all over the place. Crazy footage. This is in Detroit, by the way. Isn't that nuts?
That's crazy. That's insane.
And they get him. There's like 6 guys to 1.
So what, he had a flat tire at first? That's why he had to run?
I have no idea. No, is that right?
I think so.
Oh my goodness.
Because why would he stop on his car? Like, why would he get out and jump on top?
Yeah, no, you're right. He had a flat tire. Police were right behind him, and then he gets out and runs for it.
Hey.
Crazy.
That's
nuts.
All right.
Anyways, all right, cool, guys. We're going to look around for some more stuff and then jump in here. This is coming up next, the White House press briefing. So we'll take you there when it happens. It could be a second because sometimes they start a little late, but we'll jump around and find any breaking news for you, and then we'll jump in here.
Is Sarah Huckabee going to come on?
Yep, should be.
Oh, so she's in.
All right, guys, so we're back in. I'm going to wait on this because we never know really when this is going to start. But some of you guys earlier had questions about how the storm is going to affect up the East Coast, Georgia, North Carolina. Earlier this morning, the Georgia governor, Nathan Deal, discussed how their state is preparing for this hurricane. So each governor sort of had an update, a statement today. Rick Scott's, obviously we just took in live, but check this out from earlier today. How Georgia is preparing for this storm. And then when this starts up, we'll make sure we jump in live to the White House press briefing.
At 8 o'clock a.m. But the earlier individuals in those areas leave, the better it's going to be, and the more complete their evacuation will be. This executive order also allows for a contraflow of traffic on I-16 beginning tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock a.m. and you will hear further details of that in just a moment. For those that are evacuating, they should call 511 for an up-to-date information as to traffic patterns so that they can perhaps make a more speedy exit. By declarations of emergency such as this, it also puts in place price gouging as an illegal activity, and we have our Attorney General here who can explain further those issues. Now, those are the overviews that I can give you at this time. I think it would be appropriate for you to hear from the various department heads of our state agencies, and we will begin with Director Homer Bryson of the Georgia Emergency Management Agency and also Homeland Security to give you an up-to-date report as to what is happening in this agency, which is, of course, the lead agency with regard to these kinds of emergencies. Homer?
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. We have stood up the State Operations Center, and we have all of our state and federal partners in with us. We're in daily constant communications with our local partners, both along the coast of Georgia and the other southern counties. We have placed a GEMA representative in the 6th Coastal County Emergencies Operations Center to ensure that we're meeting their needs in a timely basis. Sort of building on what the governor has said about the track of the storm this morning. 24 hours ago, the track showed it impacting Savannah. The storm is still 3 days away, so we don't want people to be complacent. Even if it stays on the current track, the worst part of the storm is on that right front quadrant, and that will still impact our coast. We expect potential flooding surges between 4 and 8 feet. Tides, when this storm is off our coast, are not favorable for us as they were in Matthew, so we're concerned with flooding on our coast, so we want to encourage people to heed the advice of evacuation and to please leave. We're also concerned with our citizens in south central, southwest Georgia, potential weather that they'll be receiving. We're reaching out to those entities now and working with them to meet their needs. We're recommending that evacuees out of Florida travel further into North Georgia to seek sheltering. We're working to open shelters now. We have shelters open today. The goal is to have over 50 shelters open and available tomorrow with over 7,000 beds. We want to keep the shelters in South Georgia available for our local citizens as they're needed. Great communication between the local government and our state partners and our federal partners, and the communication and the cooperation between those entities is key to both the pre-disaster planning and efforts and the post-disaster. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to call on Adjutant General Gerard to bring you up to date as to what is being done with regard to the use of the Georgia National Guard. General Gerard.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to highlight that we do have some equipment that has to be evacuated in circumstances like this. So our C-130s from Savannah are being flown to Memphis to get them out of the impact area. Additionally, we've have some Chinook CH-47 helicopters stationed at Hunter Army Airfield. They are coming back to Winder and also Dobbins. And then our J-Stars aircraft at Warner Robins will also be moved, and they will go to Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma. So with respect to that, to this circumstances, I would like to highlight that we conduct routinely exercises with GEMA and also Vigilant Guard that I think everybody is familiar with, the big exercise we conducted back in March. And although we can't replicate or simulate the real thing, those type exercises have us better prepared to respond to circumstances like this. As Governor Dill mentioned, he authorized the call up of 5,000 guardsmen to state active duty. That does not mean that they are all on state active duty as of today. We will bring them onto state active duty as the need arises, and we currently are positioning them and their equipment at armories throughout the state so that we can respond when necessary. We're also assisting GEMA, Department of Public Health, and the American Red Cross with setting up shelters in Bibb County and other locations. We're deploying liaison teams in 12 of the southeastern counties to support the GEMA liaison teams in the county EMAs, and preparing to deploy more teams in other counties if necessary. Additionally, we're pre-positioning some fuel tankers to support reentry and recovery operations when necessary. So that sums up our operations as of now. Thank you very much.
I'm going to now ask DOT Commissioner Russell McMurray to explain to you what is taking place from that particular state agency.
Thank you, Governor. I'd like to apprise you of the efforts of Georgia Department of Transportation, which really started early this week in preparation for this hurricane event. As the Governor mentioned in his opening comments, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., we will contraflow I-16. So let me explain what that is. So all the lanes that head towards Savannah, from Dublin to Savannah, will be reversed. So that the only direction of travel will be from Savannah to the west, which is 125 miles up to Dublin, Georgia. I think it's safe to say that nobody needs to be going that way tomorrow morning anyway. So please, if you have to go that direction, please do not try to use I-16. This will take several hours to put in place. So we'll start in the early morning so that by 8 o'clock, commensurate with the evacuation order, I-16, all 4 lanes will be headed toward Macon, Georgia. Also, along I-16, if you're using the contraflow lanes, that is driving west in the eastbound lanes, there are 7 locations at which you can exit. Let me highlight those because you need to plan ahead. You can stop in Bryan County at US 280, which is the Pembroke exit.
I'm going to cut in for a second here, guys, and actually go down to Orlando, Florida, where the mayor and some other officials are actually live giving an update on the hurricane down there. So also relevant here in Georgia, we had some people asking, of course, about the plans in Georgia. This is a pre-taped from earlier this morning. So let's go down live to Orlando, see what they're saying.
Should be used in a well-ventilated area because carbon monoxide is very dangerous. In addition to that, we know if you don't have electrical power, you may use candles or some type of open flame. Be cautious when using open flames inside a structure because it can lead to fire. During the storm, the Orlando Fire Department will continue to respond to all fires, medical, and rescue situation. We added additional 4 units to our already vast fleet and maxing out all personnel on all apparatuses to have the proper response when in time of need. I want to make sure I reiterate this to you is please do not call 911 unless it's an emergency. Because when you do, non-emergency calls ties up the system when someone really needs us to respond. So we implore you to only use 911 when it's truly emergency. Our fire engines and ambulance will continue to respond until winds exceed a sustained miles of 50 miles per hour. Once it hit 50, we will go into a stand-down mode so we are able to render aid once winds drop below 50. So we must keep our first responders safe. Following the storm, we will do what we normally do. We will recover rescue efforts. We will conduct well-being check for the special needs for the ones that need us the most. Damage, as we all know, flooding may exist and any electrical hazards may exist as well. So stay away from any down power lines and any trees. In conclusion, the Orlando Fire Department is closely monitoring Hurricane Irma. We're committed to protecting the city of Orlando and are ready to respond when it's needed. So thank you all and God bless.
Thank you, Chief. At this time, I'd like to bring up the Orlando Police Department Police Chief John Mina.
Good afternoon. So as far as police are concerned, we will be going to full activation for our entire police department. What does that mean? It means that officers will go to 12-hour shifts, no days off, for as long as they're needed. Officers who are not normally in a first responder function or job will now revert to that position. So there will be plenty of police officers out there before and after the storm to keep care of any needs. So we are very concerned about everyone's safety. We'll be monitoring shopping centers, gas stations, other sensitive areas. There'll be lots of police presence out there. Sheriff Demings and I have been talking this morning about a possible curfew, and we will give our recommendation to the mayors as well if that is enacted. And just a reminder on traffic safety before and after the storm, that if you approach intersections where the lights are out, people should treat those as a four-way stop. So just, act if the lights are out and there's just treat it as a four-way stop, look both ways, make sure it's all clear. There may be intersections where we're going to divert everyone to only make right turns as well to ensure that people aren't having any traffic accidents. So rest assured that the Orlando Police Department will be working hard all through the night and through the duration and after the storm to ensure everyone's safety, and there will be plenty of police presence for anyone's needs. And I would just reaffirm what Chief Williams said. Please don't call 911 unless it is a true emergency. Use the non-emergency line, and that is 321-235-5300. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. This time I'd like to present Roseanne Harrington from the Orlando Utility Commission.
Thank you, Manny. On behalf of OUC, I want to assure you that we're doing everything possible to prepare for Hurricane Irma. This is the largest storm to hit Florida ever, and we're going to have winds of 100 miles an hour over a sustained period of time. We're expecting strong winds on Sunday and Monday, and so our crews will be working out in the field as long as it is safe to do so. Even though 65% of our system is underground, we're expecting a lot of damage to trees. This not only impacts our system, but it blocks roads and makes it hard for us to restore power. So what can you expect? Put in perspective, Hurricane Charlie was a Category 1 storm that cut across the state from the west. It was narrow and fast-moving. Hurricane Irma is stronger, wider, and moving slower. So you can expect that it's going to potentially have a bigger impact than Hurricane Charlie. As far as the number of outages, all we can do is compare it to Hurricane Charlie. And during Hurricane Charlie, we had 80% of our customers without power, and it took us up to 9 days to fully restore service to our customers. From a water perspective, we're doing everything we can to ensure that we maintain water quality, but we do recommend that you have plenty of water on hand, fill up your bathtubs, your sinks, and have bottled water. As far as resources, OUC will be staffing up to 10 times our normal operations, and we've already started to receive crews from as far away as Ohio, Massachusetts, and even Kansas City. So now I'm going to go over the restoration process because we're always asked a lot of questions about this. We have to wait until it's safe for our employees to go out into the field after the storm. Once it's safe to do so, we have about 100 assessors that will go out throughout our entire service territory to determine the damage to our system. From there, we will restore power to emergency facilities, including hospitals, shelters, police, and fire. And then we will work from our power plants through our transmission lines to our substations, and from our substations through large feeders that serve thousands of customers all the way to homes to restore power to as many people as quickly and safely as possible. As far as what we ask from you is we ask that you stay away from downed power lines. They might look like they're insulated, but they're still dangerous. If you have any issues, we ask that you call OUC, and our number in Orange County is 407-423-9018, and in Osceola County, it's 407-957-7373. Once again, on behalf of OUC, I want to show you.
All right, guys, I'm going to jump over now inside the White House. The White House press briefing is already in progress. We're going to jump on in there to check in live, but a really good update there. This is live in Orlando, the mayor, some other officials, the police chief, talking about plans for the city as we've been tracking this all day. So let's switch it over to some politics here and jump into the briefing.
The final stages of preparation for the beginning of a response operation. So we're seeing all three play out for us at the same time. It requires us to juggle some of our thinking, but it doesn't require us to juggle our resources. So to be clear, the response operations had ceased life-saving and life-sustaining in Harvey, and we had an opportunity to rest and refit our forces, move them out and reposition them for Harvey. We're right now employing them in the islands to save lives, and we will maintain a good footprint and posture to do the same in Florida, South Carolina, and Georgia as the storm progresses. So I'll come back to some of the path and the track and forecast here in a moment. I'd like to see if I could reinforce that by suggesting we take this very seriously. It's not only a dangerous storm, we've already seen loss of life. This storm has taken lives already. It's going to take more, unfortunately, if we're not prepared. So please take it seriously. I'd also suggest now, in terms of influencing, that people stop watching so carefully this track and start thinking a little bit more seriously about getting themselves into a safe place and out of danger. Now, I don't want them to take that as a call for shadow evacuations. Please listen to your local authorities on evacuation orders. They're not only looking out for your best interest, but they're carefully coordinating. This is a peninsula, and so people need to evacuate from south to north, and that is a staggered and carefully thought through process. But what I am suggesting is at this point, this is a large storm, and whether it wobbles left or wobbles right, you need to, at this point, start thinking through your own personal accountability. So please make sure it's kind of a oxygen mask theory. Take care of yourself first so you can take care of others. Take care of your loved ones. And if you're able, please take care of strangers and others in need. I think that's something that we've seen in Texas, and I have every reason to believe that the people of Florida and South Carolina will show that same American spirit and value. Lastly, if I can, there's been a lot of kind of coverage of Florida, but not necessarily media coverage of the U.S. Virgin Islands. And if I can, I'll give you a brief update on where we stand there. We are, as I just talked to the Department of State and Department of Defense officials, engaging in this life-saving, life-sustaining operation in the following way. Governor Mapp is experiencing loss of power, loss of water as a result, loss of communications, and some other sheltering needs. And so what we're doing is sending in air operations and surface operations to evacuate citizens. We're also doing that in St. Martin and St. Martin, the Dutch-French island that's been reported. There are some American citizens there. We are currently in the final stages of operations planning to evacuate those citizens. There are numbers ranging from 350 to 6,000. That was our planning assumption parameter. Those American citizens will be removed via surface and air means. We've had to do some kind of planning adjustment for surf conditions, for wind, and for Hurricane Jose. As we look forward to that, hopefully missing the United States, it's unfortunately still causing some havoc in the islands in our response operations, our evacuation operations. So that's where we stand on that. They'll begin executing those plans, if not already, at some point soon today, and we'll see some of those American citizens and others evacuated as necessary, to include anyone with critical or acute medical needs. So that's where I would stop on the update, and then I'll take your questions. So if I could come down here, sir, please.
Tom, one of the big problems with the Florida evacuation is that so many gas stations are running out of gasoline. What, if anything, can the federal government do in the next 24 hours to assist in getting more fuel to people in Florida?
Yeah, so there's a number of things that we've done. I should stop and mention by name Governor Scott. Tremendous leadership, tremendous confidence. He and the president have spoken. He and I have spoken. I've got every confidence in the governor and his emergency manager. They're demonstrating the same leadership, resolve, and skill and quality of effort that we saw in Texas a week ago. What we're seeing in Florida, though, are fuel shortages. We saw those same fuel shortages in Texas because people appropriately gas up their generators, their cars, their boats, and so forth. So what we'll see here now is a need to pull in additional fuel, and that need will run up against the onset of tropical storm force winds. So what are we doing? We're bringing in as much supply of refined fuel as possible, and we've waived a particular statute that allows for foreign flag vessels to help in that effort. So it's a little technical, but it's called the Jones Act. Some of you have reported on it. What happens is the Secretary of Homeland Security can waive that act. Until that's waived, only U.S. flag vessels can move fuel from point to point domestically. What we've done now is we've freed up that prohibition. And so now foreign flag vessels, so as many ships, tanker ships as possible are now being brought to bear on the effort to bring as much fuel as possible in to help Floridians, regardless of their flag vessel status. And that's the best we can do. In addition, they're planning all the intermodal points to get trucks from those tanker ship port locations into the gas stations. So that's what we're doing.
The window's rapidly closing. How much more can you get in there?
The conditions will dictate that. I don't think there'll be too much more that we can get in. At some point here, they'll have to stop those operations. And again, that's one of my messages here. It's not a tough love message. It's just a message of clarity and honesty. At some point, people are going to be on their own, so to speak, for a period of time during which the flooding, the raining, and the wind bear down on them. And they need to be prepared if they are in that path and haven't taken some action to get themselves in a less dangerous position, to be ready for at least a 72-hour period. That would be my advice for them to have enough food, water, and shelter before the government can get back in. We have pre-deployed and pre-staged, but we can't actually get to that final point of care until conditions permit. So, Major.
One housekeeping question. For FEMA to have resources and no broken chain there, the President needs to sign the legislation the House just passed this morning. Any indication of when that's going to happen?
So I'd like to start by thanking Congress. They came in a fast way to give us the emergency supplemental funding. I think that's what you're alluding to. First, FEMA still has the money that they need, so there's no break in operations. I want to make sure to clarify on your question there, but there will be a break in their operations if they run out of money. That's why that supplemental legislation was so necessary. Thank you to the House and Senate leadership for bringing everyone back in and passing that so quickly and responsibly. We anticipate, honestly, this is a real-time event. The bill might be on its way up here right now. It requires signature by the Speaker, signature by the Senate leadership or the Vice President, and then signature by the President of the United States. And so I think that will happen today. But as soon as we get it, the President will take that seriously.
Talk to us about the complication of a storm track, and we don't know the wobbling nature of it, but it looks like it's going to cover the entire peninsula running south to north. How does that complicate emergency management response as it moves up the state? And to Floridians who are veterans of hurricanes, there is sometimes a tendency to say, I can ride this one out. I've seen bad storms before. Could you address both of those?
Yeah, of course. Some people call it hurricane amnesia. Let's hope there's no hurricane amnesia, but I would start by saying there are some people, probably some 20% of the population, that might not remember or might not have gone through the last big hurricane in Florida. It was probably 2004 or 5, right? There were 4 major hurricanes in 2004, Wilma in 2005, which was forgotten because of Katrina. If you haven't experienced it, take it seriously and ask those who have. If you have experienced it, please recall that what I just described took place. You were without power, you were without comms, and you were without water in some cases, or sewer treatment and so forth for a period of time afterwards. So plan for that. In terms of the track, there's 3 considerations. The upper right, kind of northeast quadrant of the storm packs the most punch, right? The second consideration is if the eye wall gets over land, it tends to lose steam a little faster. So if it stays over water, it tends to keep its strength a little longer. And so as this thing moves left and right, it can affect our operations because it can affect a different part of the state in a different way, wind or flood. What we'll see here over the next 24 hours is going to tell us which one we're going to face. We're planning for all those eventualities. I guess maybe worst case scenario is if it dips down, moves west, and curls around to the other side of the state. Because right now, it's my belief that people haven't been planning for that. I want to make sure I'm not suggesting that that's going to happen, but it seems to be within the cone of uncertainty. And so this storm at this point could do everything from Tampa to Jacksonville and a direct hit on Miami. So please plan for those things accordingly. Don't necessarily evacuate based on those eventualities. Listen to your local officials as they're tracking it most closely, but do prepare to be in the storm's path just in case. So that's how we're doing it. And then lastly, to answer your question, Major, what we're doing is instead of pre-positioning all the commodities in places that might be affected by the storm to continue support operations to the islands, the FEMA logistics team have thought through placing those supplies elsewhere, even up to Delaware, New York, and elsewhere, so they continue barge operations in to support the islands, and that the next storm doesn't affect the storm before. If that answers your question. So I go here.
Thank you. The big question is, after the chemical fire that occurred in Texas and the fact that you all are being taxed with a second storm, are there any extra precautions that are being taken this time to ensure that that type of thing doesn't happen here? And how taxed is the system for this and for Jose coming in?
Well, the system can be taxed in different ways. I addressed already the life-saving, life-sustaining operational capabilities that we have, all the USAR teams and so forth, which are marshaled by the federal government, but provided by the states. They're all rested and refit and ready to come back into the fight. Same with the Coast Guard, the United States military, National Guard, and Title X forces. We're preparing for environmental losses as we should. I can't speak to each and every company's preparation efforts. As I stand here, we can continue to monitor that and follow up with you. There'll be steps that are taken from setting down the nuclear facility, the nuclear power facility, to a position of safety. I think they take some kind of warm shutdown posture at some point, depending on the track. So we monitor those things. I was comfortable with the position of most of them. We also look at Okeechobee because that's going to be a big flooding risk and an overflow risk.
Is there anything that you're not comfortable with right now that is an overriding concern?
Yeah, well, we're worried about the fuel shortages. We're worried about whatever worries the governor at this point. But no, to be honest with you, I am setting expectations appropriately here, because as we go through a storm, nobody's ever happy or completely safe. But I am extremely comfortable with the government efforts. Now I want to make sure that people understand that they have a part to play here as well. So, yeah.
Two questions for you, if you don't mind. Number one, taking a step back and looking a little more big picture,
Yep.
You've got wildfires out west, you've got a crisis in Texas that people are still recovering from, you have Irma, Jose on its heels. The resources of the federal government are not unlimited. At what point do you worry that the resources are being stretched too thin if you're not at that point now?
Yeah, no, I don't. As the Chief of Staff, General Kelly, says, the federal government should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. He's absolutely right. We've had cabinet meetings here today, yesterday, and throughout these storm events, focusing on efforts in national security matters around the globe. So I'm pretty comfortable in our ability and our capacity as leaders, but also as institutions, to handle the various different things that come our way. I'm extremely comfortable with President Trump's capacity to do so. He's demonstrated an ability to juggle these issues of complexity on a regular basis, including today. What I do worry about are the financial resources. Congress came and stepped up in a bipartisan way. I think President Trump deserves a lot of credit for putting that together over the last 48 hours. And they've done what the American people really want them to do, and that is act and do what's right, instead of quibbling over things that tend to get in the way of efficient execution of services. And so in this particular case, we're going to have to go back, I'm sure, for additional resources as these storms continue to hurt our states and our citizens. But for now, we're taking a responsible course of action, asking for the money in the appropriate small tranches, and then reassessing and getting better estimates so that we don't overestimate. But we're not doing it in a way that's going to stop or slow down operations. So.
My second question, and actually, do you know what a number would be on that yet, or is it too early?
On a subsequent request? No, a little too early. So as you know, the approximately $7.5 billion that came for FEMA on this supplemental was a calculated estimate. There's a 6.8 figure roundabout that would be a regular scheduled replenishment at the end of the month for FEMA's Disaster Relief Fund. Those two together were contemplated, so we assume passage of both. The third or future requests will be based on estimates of information as we refine them.
While we have you here, I know you're going to focus on Irma, but I've got to ask about DACA, because there's still a question of what happens to DACA recipients currently serving in the military. There's still no decision. Can you explain why there's a delay in explaining to these folks what's going to happen and when they might be able to expect an answer?
No, I can't. I can tell you that the president put it back on Congress and then asked for his priorities to be met in their solution. In the interim window, I'm not sure, to be honest with you, what the answer is on the military part of DACA, but I thought we were clear. I'll find and make sure I get back to you on that. Yeah.
Given Harvey and the flooding and the recovery efforts that you talked about, and then what may happen with Irma, there have been reports that you all are reconsidering the flood, reversing the flood plain regulations that the Obama administration put in. Can you talk about whether you are, in fact, reconsidering that, either putting back those regulations or drafting new regulations that would once again toughen back up the flood regulations, given that we're going to be facing a lot of those issues as both of these places recover? Yeah, no, I won't necessarily accept the premise of the question, but I will answer the spirit of it. So it's not about tough or not tough, it's about smart or not smart. And I think the answer here, I think I went out and did this in one of your publications, the answer here is that we shouldn't use federal money to rebuild in ways that don't anticipate future flood risk. So we need to build back smarter and stronger against floodplain concerns when we use federal dollars. What happened in the president's infrastructure executive order was the rescission of an Obama-era order that had a broad-ranging and overreaching scope into construction permitting. And at the time that we rescinded it, we did so in the hope of expediting infrastructure development in this country, which I think was a smart move for what it's worth. The president certainly did as well. But now what we have to do is replace with thoughtful, whether it's an executive order, regulations, or both, building standards and practices
for the expenditure of federal money that makes floodplain and risk mitigation sense. So
there will be some kind of affirmative effort to.
In the interim, I should point out two things here, right? Not to be defensive, but first, that Obama-era executive order had not turned into a regulation yet, so nothing in this storm would have changed whether we acted or didn't act, if that makes sense. So this was not an immediate or poorly thought through step. And then secondly, whether we put forward an executive order or not, we do have the latitude under the current Stafford Act authorities and other laws to put into these rebuilding practices in Texas and Florida appropriate floodplain management practices. But we want to make sure we think through how to codify that for the future in the next month. Ma'am.
Monday, we're seeing an anniversary, 9/11, and the nation right now is seeing a lot of vulnerabilities, speaking of what Howie said. What is the threat level, and what is this administration doing as it relates to moving into this tragic anniversary, remembering this tragic anniversary?
I was kind of personally motivated into service on that day, and that's why I've come back to service here again. The counterterrorism mission is the one I take the most seriously, and President Trump will, as presidents before him and since 9/11, receive a comprehensive picture of the terrorist threat environment and what we're doing to counter it from his senior officials on 9/11. Or I think on Monday we'll do this, we'll get the timing of that to you, and we'll give you a readout. He'll do that. That's a practice that we've started since 9/11. Presidents Bush and Obama maintained that practice. President Trump intends to do the same. And then I'll let the team announce his planned event or scheduled events for attending any ceremonies and paying some respects. But for the most part, I'd encourage the administration, who will, I'm sure, fan out and give appropriate speeches, to show some solemnity that day and not talk too much about policy. It's a day of remembrance and respect.
What's the threat level right now as we go into 9/11 and with the vulnerabilities that we are seeing throughout this nation?
Yeah, no terrorist should view us as vulnerable right now. Farthest thing from the truth. Okay? Second, there is no actionable, credible threat to the United States right now. We run those regular risk posture meetings here at the White House, and we bring together the entirety of the intelligence community when we do so. There is no current, credible, actionable threat, terrorist threat against the homeland. But we will continue to track that, and if we learn of such a thing, we communicate it to our law enforcement authorities and to the public as soon as we learn of it. Yeah, thank you, sir.
In addition to the issue of supplies of oil and gas, there's the issue of price. And gasoline has got jacked up about 70 cents a gallon. I remember at an earlier briefing, you said you'd be monitoring to make sure there isn't gouging.
Yep.
Are you monitoring beyond the issue of supply and demand? Because that seems to be a pretty bad excuse just to raise prices, and to make sure that it's data-based?
Yeah, so the idea is trying to determine, it's a fact-based determination, the difference between gouging and supply and demand price indicators. So I'd ask you to remember one thing, the refineries, at least 5 or 6 of them in Houston, are still down. So we've got a refinery issue on one side, and we've got an increased demand issue on the other side. And so that's necessarily generally going to raise prices, but it's a short-term price spike in our experience. We'll try to differentiate that from gouging as we examine any potential allegations of that practice. But for right now, Floridians are pretty well used to this, and I think they're pretty well used to their Attorney General prosecuting them in Florida. So I'm not of the opinion that I have to issue too many warnings from this podium again, but in case anybody missed me last time, gouging won't be tolerated, period. Okay? Let me see if I can come back real quickly, because I know Sarah's here and has a lot more to do. Governor Mapp, Governor Rosello, Governor McMaster of South Carolina, Scott of Florida, Deal of Georgia, and Abbott of Texas. You're all on our minds. You're all our clients. You're our customer base right now. You're going to set the requirements. We're going to meet those requirements, and as Americans, we're going to get through this. So remember, I started with inform, influence, and inspire. I'm pretty certain that the country saw the people of Texas show us what compassion's all about, and I'm pretty sure the Floridians and South Carolinians are going to step up and match that challenge in the next coming days. Let's say a little prayer for them, and I'll come back out and speak to you as the situation dictates. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. As you can see, the safety and security of the American people is the President's top priority, and we'll continue to work with our local partners to keep the public fully informed as the events unfold. Looking ahead to this weekend, the President and the First Lady will be hosting cabinet members and their spouses at Camp David. This will be a working weekend, which will include the 4th cabinet meeting since the President took office. That will take place on Saturday. The President will lead a discussion on the administration's priorities in addition to receiving briefings on Hurricane Harvey, recovery efforts, and preparations for Hurricane Irma. Secretary Mattis will obviously be among the cabinet members attending this weekend, and on a lighter note, today happens to be his birthday, so I'd like to wish Secretary Mattis a happy birthday on behalf of all of us here. Everybody knows I love a good birthday story. In a letter to his troops in the field in 2003, General Mattis encouraged them to fight with a happy heart and a strong spirit and to demonstrate to the world that there is no better friend and no worse enemy than a U.S. Marine. I think it's safe to say that he's lived his own life by that advice. In general, we hope your 67th birthday is a good one. With that, I'll take your questions. Celia.
Is this agreement with the president, is this agreement with the Democrats that the president reached a one-off? Is this something we can expect to see more of, bipartisanship from this White House?
I certainly think that the goal is to have bipartisan efforts and certainly legislation where you've got Republicans and Democrats both working towards it. That was something that the president talked about during the campaign, and certainly something that I think the American people expect, and one of the reasons they voted for him, and I certainly would expect to continue to see that.
Does the president care at all that Republican leadership is annoyed with this deal that he reached?
I think that the president's focus was what was doing what was best for the American people, and that's why he's the president. The people wanted somebody to be a leader. They wanted somebody that was going to step up and take action and get things done, and that's exactly what the president did. I think the last thing we want to do is play partisan politics when we have people in places like Texas and Louisiana that need financial support through the federal government. The president wanted to make sure that happened and that got taken care of, and that's what he did. John?
Sir, what's the thinking behind the president working with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer to eliminate the need to constantly go through this debt ceiling process?
Look, I think that if you can take some of that partisan bickering out of the process, that's probably a good thing. This is a government that is always going to pay its debts and wants to make sure that our bills get paid and that we can support the needs that we have of our country, like we're having to do right now in a time of disaster relief efforts. And so that's certainly a priority moving forward.
But there are some conservatives in Congress who say taking away the battles over the debt ceiling just means that you're going to continue to add on debt, add on debt, add on debt with no checks and balances.
Well, I think that's, if you have your priorities wrong, the president is focused on, one, balancing the budget, bringing that debt down overall, but also making sure, again, that the citizens of our country, particularly those in a really desperate time of need like we are seeing right now in Texas and Louisiana, are taken care of. Major.
Sarah, about tomorrow, you said it's important for the public to be fully informed. I would just suggest you take in due seriousness having the pool be able to cover some portion of that cabinet meeting at Camp David tomorrow, so the country can be fully informed.
We will be releasing some of the president's remarks from tomorrow, and we'll keep you guys posted on that process and how that'll look.
You talked about eliminating partisan bickering from the debt ceiling process. Is that a Republican problem?
Is that I'm sorry?
A Republican problem. We had 90 Republicans in the House vote against this emergency relief package in large measure because it was decoupled or coupled in a way.
The majority of Republicans voted for it. I think that the most important thing is that the deal got done. The president acted on it, and he worked with Democrats to get it done. And I think he's going to continue to work with whoever is interested in moving the ball forward to help the American people.
And for Republicans who are displeased with this, what is the White House message to them? Just get over it? You're sore losers? What?
I think the biggest message is that we're a lot less focused on what makes Congress happy and what makes Americans better and stronger. And that was the decision that the president made, that this was something that was important to get done, and he was willing to work with Democrats to make sure it happened. David.
Sarah, I think you just to change subjects for a second. There's been estimates that 250,000 Rohingya Muslims have fled violence in Burma, perpetrated by the military portion of the Burmese government. And I think last week you said you were asked whether the president had been briefed. You weren't sure. Can you give us an update whether the president has been briefed and made aware of it? If he has concerns about this, because it could be regionally destabilizing, and also let us know whether the president, since taking office, has had any direct conversation with Aung San Suu Kyi and would agree with some members of Congress who are now saying they would like her to take a stronger role in sort of denouncing this violence and trying to put an end to it.
I know that he's aware of the situation. We're monitoring. I'm not aware of it. If they've had specific conversations, so I'd have to look into
Do you guys
that.
have a statement, though, about concern about this?
Again, we're monitoring the situation, and I would refer you to the State Department for specific details at this point. Jeff?
Sarah, what specifically are some ideas that the president would like to work with Democrats next on? He's talked a lot about tax reform, obviously, but is infrastructure also on the list here? Or when will we know if this sort of new approach to bipartisanship is something that is his new plan versus just, as Cecilia asked, was a one-off?
Look, the president's committed to moving legislation through. He wants Congress to act, and he's happy to have Democrats be part of that. Tax reform is a huge part of the agenda moving into the fall. Infrastructure is something certainly we'd love to see. He had meetings on that just yesterday, and we're going to continue to work with anyone willing to sit down at the table and focus on those pieces of legislation.
Has he given up on healthcare repeal?
No, and we're going to continue pushing and looking for new ways to improve the healthcare system, and certainly the ultimate goal would be to repeal Obamacare and replace it with something that actually works.
Democrats on that to try and find a
If Democrats are willing to work on an actual solution, sure. Adam?
Thank you, Sarah. The president this morning talked about tax reform in a tweet, and he's focusing the country on tax reform after we get past the hurricanes and the immediate threats. Everyone in the administration says tax reform this year. One person, however, that would be Leader McConnell, keeps saying tax reform this Congress, which could be next year. Is the president willing to allow the focus on tax reform to move into 2018? And if not, what would he say to the leader to get him on board with everyone else in the administration to deliver tax reform to the American people by December 31st of this year?
Yeah, I think the ultimate goal is certainly to get it done. Ideally, we get it done as soon as possible. The most important thing, though, is that we're providing tax relief for middle-class Americans. And so ideally, we get that done. If we could get it done tomorrow, I think everybody would be happy with that. But obviously, it's going to be a process. As soon as we can, that would be our ultimate goal. But we want to make sure we get it done right, and that's important.
Leader McConnell keeps saying this Congress as if to give him a backdoor excuse or option to go into next year. What does the president say to him about it?
I certainly can't speak for Leader McConnell, but again, this administration, our priority is to get this done and get it done as quickly as we can. Catherine?
Sarah, is Mar-a-Lago following evacuation orders in Palm Beach?
I can't speak for the Trump organization. I'd direct you to them.
And do you know at all, I mean, the Mar-a-Lago has survived come through a number of hurricanes, very minimal damage. Would the president consider evacuees or victims of the storm being housed there?
Again, that's something that you would have to talk to the Trump organization, not something I can comment. Zeke?
One, in regards to the deal reached with Democrats earlier this week, the president talked a lot on the campaign about how he was going to cut the best deals. What would the White House's message be to Republicans who, on the issue of the debt ceiling or on the CRs in the past, achieve better deficit-cutting deals under President Barack Obama?
Well, I don't know that you could say that it's a better deal when you're helping people that are in a recovery effort, and that certainly was the priority of the president, is making sure that we move things forward and quickly so that those people were taken care of, and that was the priority in that process. No, sorry.
There's a report earlier this week that Special Counsel Robert Mueller was looking to meet with or interview White House staff regarding the statement that was put out in early July that Donald Trump Jr. is meeting with Russian attorney and several other individuals at Trump Tower. Has that a formal request been made, and will White House staff be complying, and who is affected by that request?
I'm not aware of a specific request at this time, but certainly we've been very clear that the White House will be fully cooperative and transparent through this process. No.
Sarah, I have two questions, one on DACA and one on the debt ceiling deal. On DACA, the president tweeted yesterday that DACA recipients have, quote, nothing to worry about over the next 6 months, and there would be no action. Can you definitively say that no DACA recipients will be deported in the next 6 months?
I would imagine, unless there was some sort of criminal activity, I think that would change the situation.
Why can't you definitively say that no DACA recipients
Well, I was about to, if you'd let me finish my sentence. But I was going to say that outside of circumstances where there may be criminal activity or something along those lines, the president's been clear that that's not something that would take place, a change over those 6 month period.
I think what most DACA recipients are worried about is that their status is scheduled to lapse by 2020. Can you speak to that? I mean, when the president says they have nothing to worry about. They're all going to be
during
out of
this
status
during
by
this 6-month time. There are no changes that are being made to the program at this point. After that, again, the goal is that Congress makes a permanent fix, and that Congress actually does their job, and that we have responsible immigration reform that takes place over these 6 months, and those individuals won't be affected because they actually stepped up and did what they were asked to do by the American people.
On the debt ceiling deal, when it comes to votes, is the president finding Schumer and Pelosi to be more reliable partners in getting votes than the Republican leaders?
Look, the president's committed to working with both Republicans and Democrats, and we're going to continue doing that and trying to get the best legislation we can for the American people. I hate to do this, but it's Friday and the president's departing, and I know several people have to step out for that. We'll be around the rest of the afternoon. If you guys have follow-up questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Thanks, guys.
No, come in. All right, guys, that is going to do it. White House press briefing. Hope that you've enjoyed our coverage today. A lot of stuff on the hurricane, of course. I'm going to leave you with this recent tweet from Mike Thomas, who we saw earlier, tracking all of this. He's been tweeting throughout the day. So if you're still on with us on YouTube, thanks so much for joining our stream, guys. We continue our coverage on air and online, of course, throughout tonight and throughout the whole weekend. And we'll be back here on Fox 5 Live Monday at 11:30 as normal. So check out this cool tweet as we continue to cover. This is the newest piece of information, or at least 20 minutes ago, from Mike, as Irma is just slightly below a Category 5 with winds of 155 miles per hour moving west. So it might strengthen even more. We'll be watching this, again, like I said, throughout the evening and into the weekend. Have a great weekend, guys, and thanks for your comments, and we'll see you on Monday.